Hey.
How's it going?
Good. Yourself?
Well, good. Thanks. I'm Chris, by the way.
Brendan.
Nice to meet you.
Told you run a construction business.
I got a couple businesses, but yes, that's the bread and butter.
Very cool.
My wife runs it more than I do now, but
that's the best way to have it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just about going on 14 years, and I used to have an insane business partner that we bought out a couple years ago, and she likes to work. She wants to work more than I did, so I was taking the stay-at-home dad role for last year, COVID stuff, and my daughter's gonna be 9 next month, so that was fun. Now she's going back to school, so I'm just trying to do a bunch of other little stuff. Okay. Sorry, I'm all winded from running up the stairs.
Yeah, we get a workout before we come up here.
Right on.
Yeah. But 9's a fun age. I have a 13-year-old.
Okay. Girl?
Yeah.
Right on. Has it changed for you yet?
Oh, yeah. Then she had 12. And
see, I figure I got about 3 years of the I love you, daddy, jumping in your lap sort of stuff, and it's going to change. I mean, everybody says it's going to change, and then it'll change back hopefully again later.
Yeah, so it's all moodiness, and dad's really not cool at all now.
And is that your only?
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. So
yeah,
only one I know of anyways.
Yeah, if we'd have known, we would have done another one, how things were going to turn out. But we waited till we were later on purpose, because my mom was 17 when I was born, so I was 40 when I had my daughter.
Okay, so opposite ends of the spectrum.
Just wanted to be a little bit more,
along the
dialed
path.
in. Yeah, not stressed so much about things. But
very cool.
What's your daughter's name?
Mackenzie.
Mackenzie.
Yeah, I went with a good Irish name.
Yeah.
tried to placate my mother a little bit with that one.
There you go.
So, how about you?
Violet.
Okay.
Named her after my grandmother. It was probably the single easiest decision ever. Because my mom was so young when I was born, spent a lot of time at grandma's house.
Yeah.
She was probably more of a mom than my mom was, but circumstances, you know, it is what it is. So yeah, as soon as we found out we had a girl, it was like, that's no brainer.
Very cool.
Nice picture.
Yeah. Nice little digs here.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I literally thought I was just coming to bullshit with Hari for an hour or so. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't say telling me anything. Although I probably would have dressed a little bit better. I just throwing stuff off. I was just getting out the Christmas decorations to start getting that stuff up. We're in the middle of a kitchen remodel too, so it's not like a normal Christmas either.
Yeah. Yeah, Thanksgiving is over, and literally the day after, it's time to start putting up decorations. And
well, it's funny at the stores. I mean, the shit goes up right after Halloween now.
Right.
I remember being a kid, there was a big gap. There's no gap anymore. But no, I just got back from Arizona. Just got back from Arizona on Monday. I went down there to see my aunt and uncle for Thanksgiving, and then had some friends that went down there. So older group of guys that went down there for a golf tournament, and so they asked me to join. So I stayed an extra 5 days. So I was down there for 12 days. It's always nice to come home, but man, when it's 78 and sunny,
it's a struggle. Yeah,
I am destined to be a snowbird.
Yeah,
we will get another house for sure at some point.
Yeah, Arizona's good place. I got a family down there, and then I do a lot of shooting, so that's where our ammo manufacturers.
Nice.
So,
what kind of guns? Lots, everything.
Lots,
yes.
Lots of Glocks, lots of ARs.
I've got a decent little collection. I got a buddy of mine, younger friend actually. No, you guys don't know him. His name's James, and I didn't realize he was such a gun nut. I'm an aspiring gun nut. I've always collected a few, but I've actually have probably like 5 that I've never even fired.
Oh, really?
So I went over to his house because he lives out in the sticks by me. And we went over to go shoot a bunch of stuff that he had and that I had. And he literally pulls out fucking SOCOM. I mean, he's got a mill. He's making his own shit for the 80% lowers and all that stuff. So he got me turned on to that because I'm like, I want that. I want that. I want that. So he's getting me turned on. I actually just ordered my suppressors the other day.
Oh, nice. Which ones did you get?
I don't recall. He sent me a link. I just said, just tell me what to
problems, yeah.
Just tell me, yeah, right. Just tell me what to get. I'll get it. It was buy one, get one up until the 5th. So I just got a couple of, what are they called? Where you can use it on multiple.
Oh, multi-caliber. It's like a 30 cal can.
Yeah. There's a name that they had on it. But yeah, I'm really new to the building of the stuff because I just had a bunch of, whatever. One of my stepdads gave me a 52 Russian SKS for my 30th birthday.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's seen war. It's got the bayonet on it, and still, that was my first one. Then we just got a 38 revolver, or something that my wife could handle, you know. And then I've picked up a few things here or there, but I like it. Anyway, we're not shooting at his place because you're supposed to be able to shoot wherever you want out there,
right.
in the battleground. And I don't know, he's got some rare breed triggers, so it's not technically automatic, but it sure feels automatic.
Yeah, it's one of the binary triggers that we can't have here in the free state of Washington.
And he, whatever, we were firing off a few, and I don't know, maybe half an hour into our probably 2-hour event, a neighbor that he had never known came by. Something about their horse got hurt in the barn or whatever.
Oh, so, spooked or something.
Something like that. Yeah. I mean, you know, he's trying to be respectful of it, but part of the reason of living out in the Toolies is you can target practice. You can
do what you want for the most part. Yeah, I run a machine shop myself, actually. Okay. So I've made a couple 80% lowers for my stuff, and it's pretty cool. Like,
now I understand the mechanics behind it. I had no clue of how all that stuff worked, but it's pretty interesting. And I mean, it's just like a puzzle, essentially.
Right.
Just put together different pieces and
get all the parts and slap it all together.
Right. Yeah, I'm excited to do that because we got 6 acres out there too.
Okay, nice.
4 acres of forest. I just cleared out this last summer. Had like 6 foot tall blackberry bushes. Took me 4 hours to walk around my perimeter with a weed whacker with a little metal tip on it. I was like, this ain't gonna work. Well, I had to call somebody who had a big machine.
Yeah,
it took them 2 days. It would have taken me 2 months to do it at that rate, but
yeah, by the time you finished, you'd be going back around to
right.
Get the regrowth.
I know. I'm trying to figure out if I want to get goats or pigs or something to help keep it down because I don't want to do chemicals.
Yeah.
But
get some pygmy goats. You know.
Yeah, my stepbrother, he's a hippie dude, lives in Canada, and he just happened to be in town. His mom's not doing good. He stopped by on his way back from Montana, and he was talking about the pigs because they'll eat everything. Mm-hmm. And he said, God, he had a certain name of one. I can't recall what it was, but he's like, you get an electric fence or electric net and you just train them as piglets. And then eventually you just kind of move them around and they'll take care of everything because they'll get the roots. That was the difference. The goats won't get the roots of the blackberries, the hearts, but the pigs will, supposedly.
That makes sense, yeah.
And then because they'll, they truffle hunt and burrow and dig and stuff, and then when they're all done with all that, then got a bunch of bacon to go after the fact, and
that hopefully tastes a little bit like blueberries.
I feel better about eating pig than I would a goat, technically, but I don't know why.
Yeah. It all cooks up pretty decently in the Traeger.
I'm sure. Traeger.
Yeah, I shoot quite a lot. Work with a group out of Portland, and we're pretty much every single weekend either running classes or
well, we should
shameless plug, it's called Task Collective.
Okay.
And we're out there doing medical and firearms and overland stuff, so
perfect skill sets to have for what's most likely coming.
Yes. Yeah, that was kind of with all of the riots and everything of last summer, it was kind of a harsh awakening call for me that cool, I've always shot a little bit, but like outside of just going to the range, just out to the woods with buddies and having a beer or two and then plinking at targets, like I didn't have any sort of cohesive or formalized training, and fell in with these guys and good group of guys that are mission focused. And
it's out of Portland, you said?
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, I'd definitely like to check that out because I have I'm minor pseudo prepper guy, so I have lots of things, but not all the skill sets to run said things. My goal is to be the farmer,
right?
Because I love growing shit. The older I get, I love flowers too. I don't know what happened to me, but the older I get, I love flowers.
Nothing wrong with the Ming.
But I love growing stuff. That's why one of the main reasons that we moved out there, also for all the insanity that was happening local. The farther away you get from Portland, the better. But I've got we've got 15 families that share a common road and over a little bridge. And I think between them all, there's over 100 chickens, 24 pigs, 24 goats, a couple steer. But none of them have like really big fat gardens.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll be the garden dude.
You see
trade
the gap and address the market need.
Yeah. Somewhat, yeah.
That's cool. Sounds like kind of a real community built up.
It is.
There.
I mean, I'm the newest one there. We've only been there for a little over a year. And most of them, I don't even know if I'd say most of them. I've met, I think 12 out of the 15 families, because we had a bridge issue last year. So there's a little meeting in a barn about how to rectify that, which it kind of got dealt with, but we still need to come up with a paving idea. But there's a few Slavic families that have a bunch of kids, which was really one thing I was afraid of, because our old house we were in for 17 years. I've been in Vancouver my whole life, and we were at our last house in Cascade Park area for 17 years. And very next door neighbor, daughter, friend, same age, we put a gate in the fence so they could just go back and forth.
Yeah.
And then 2 houses up on the other side, it was another family that was really close. And so leaving that area, I kind of felt bad, or I was worried about potentially taking her to a spot that was too remote, you know what I mean?
Too far away from
Yeah.
friends.
And when we started, as soon as we went to go look at the place, I was like, well, I see a couple bikes over there. There's a swing set there. So there's hope.
Right.
And then, it turns out that the one family, 2 houses down, they're in their mid to late 30s, and they've got 8 kids ranging from 2 to 17.
Wow.
Yeah, right. So there's a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old girl, a 7-year-old boy, and a 6-year-old girl. So that's kind of Violet's little buddies to hang out with.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, gives her something to do. Plus, I got her in jiu-jitsu and battleground, which she will be drugged to 3 days a week until she's 18. And then hopefully by then she'll want to keep doing it anyway.
Yeah, that's funny. I had a similar issue with my daughter, taking her to karate. And after about the first year, she was done. But it's like, you made a commitment, you want to go all the way to your black belt. We told you start this program. That's the end goal. You're a year into it. Now it's no longer fun. It's lost its luster. Unfortunately, you still have to keep on going.
Where do you live at? Where are you?
I'm over in East Vancouver.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? Where were you taking her? Where are you taking her to?
East West.
Okay, that's where Violet started there. The Krav Maga class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They seem to have really.
Mr.
good
Jonathan
coaches.
is great.
Yeah.
They've got a couple really good coaches. No, we wanted to, she loved that. She loved the striking and the kicking, and she was actually pretty good at that. And then, the different weapons that they practice with. She did that for almost 2 full years. And then when we moved to Battleground, couldn't find anything like it. And I wasn't going to drive. It's 40 minutes each way.
Exactly.
So there's a, what is it, Battleground BMA, Battleground Martial Arts. They do jiu-jitsu. Jeremiah is the guy that runs it. I can't remember his partner's name. His friends with Zach, actually. I don't know if you ever came across meeting him or not, but really good. She does not like it as much because it's fucking way harder.
Yeah.
You're dragging your shit, a big ass gi, and there's not much punching. It's all arm bars and trying to do stuff. And so, she tells my wife all the time she doesn't like it. And I just say, I don't give a shit.
It's again, you signed up for this. So
you have to do it. I'll let her, she can do dance and she can do swimming and, I don't care, but she has to do that because at some point it's going to come in very handy, not let alone all the great, honor and discipline and just being
the kind of life
good
skills
people
that you build out of that.
But I want her to be able to wrap somebody up if they mess with her at the wrong time.
Which, like we were talking about, it's the unfortunate reality of, having a daughter is they're going to be subjected to that sort of situation at some point in time, more than likely.
It's funny. I feel actually the girls are going to get more of a raw deal than the guys are now and in the future. I mean, especially with all the whatever. I mean, I don't want to get too crazy on certain stuff.
Go for it. But Hari said, no subject is off limits. And I was like, great. You might regret this episode.
No, I'm definitely pretty opinionated on a lot of stuff. But, look, I don't care if you're gay, if you want to wear a dress, if you want to, it doesn't care. I don't care. But when you start forcing that shit on kids, you know, the
Impressionable
library reading, talking. I mean, the I don't even remember what they were trying to pass, or if it even, whatever. I try not to focus on it too much because it just gets my blood pressure too high. But, you know, a 6-year-old kid doesn't need to learn about anal sex or masturbation. It's just not the right time.
There's other things that they need to be focusing on.
Play color and hopscotch or whatever the hell. But I mean, the you know, all these women that were born male, you know, breaking all these records, it's like, I don't get it, you know, that part of stuff. So I think the girls are going to get this generation of girls are going to have a challenge that previous ones were different. I mean, there's always challenges. Everybody's got to go through different stuff, but you know, it just seems like it'll
definitely be a different experience, you know, as we kind of break the traditional gender roles and behaviors that we have. I actually hadn't thought about in that particular regard. I was thinking more about, you know, if as a male I can't compete at a high level as a male, then admittedly there's a lot of sports where if I now identify as a different gender, suddenly I am a top contender. And it just comes down to like basic physiological differences.
Well, you can't.
And to ignore those, it's a struggle.
You can't have testosterone coursing through your veins for a couple of decades and then go compete with somebody who didn't.
I think Joe Rogan said that, words to that effect.
Yeah, that whole stuff is.
And yeah, and don't get me wrong, like I personally don't care what you identify as, but in the world of competition and where basically playing that game gives you an edge, that's where I go, oh, okay, well, maybe we need to reconsider things. Well,
especially like the MMA chick, or what, you know, smashing people or smashing women. That's clearly an unfair advantage. I mean, women are better at men at most things, but when it comes to physicality, there's a difference.
Yeah, I mean, an undeniable difference.
You can't argue it, you know. Yes, there are some women out there that would throttle me in multiple ways, but the majority of them, just how it is. But
yeah, you'll always find kind of the one outlier that will always, you know, can break that example, but it's an outlier, unfortunately. It's not the mean.
Yeah, I got a friend who's got 2 daughters, and he's pretty liberal and whatever, not to... liberal, conservative, whatever, really don't care. You know, I still love a lot of my super hardcore left friends. I just can't identify with a lot of their thought processes. But he's got 2 girls, and I just like, because we've had that discussion before. And I just said, okay, so they're in soccer and they're competitive, and, you know, one of them could go far. I mean, like, definite college degree or college scholarship level, and possibly even Olympics. And I was like, how would you feel if, you know, she lost a spot because of some guy changed his mind at some point in time? And then his answer just blew me away. He's like, well, you know, that's kind of a hard thing. I'm like, dude, are you fucking out of your mind? I can't get my head around that sort of stuff. But again, I don't really care. To each his own, man. The whole world needs all kinds to go around. But it's when it comes to the forcing of stuff.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and then the kind of the constant media propagation of like in your face. And it's like, don't get me wrong, like, again, everyone should have the right to live how they choose.
100%.
It's when you start forcing it upon me, you know, that's where the issue and kind of disconnect comes in.
Same thing with the vaccines. If you want to get one, get one. If you don't. I mean, that's another thing that I find interesting from some political ideology is, you know, my body, my choice, until it's, you know, something that's different.
Right.
Everybody wants to use whatever that they can to their particular viewpoints. And, you know, I guess that makes sense, but that whole,
yeah, especially with the new variants coming out, you know, every 4 to 6 months that just aren't, you know, the current vaccine methodologies aren't effective against or greatly reduced. You know, it's...
Well, the vaccine, you know, they recently changed the definition of vaccine to fit the mRNA stuff because it wasn't a vaccine by definition.
Yeah, reclassify it. So now it's, you know, official.
And yes,
and I've had friends use the excuse of it's FDA approved.
Well, technically, Comirnaty is not even available yet, and that was the one that was FDA approved. I mean, they did a lot of double speak to try that. That's the thing that bothers me most about it is the mad push.
Right.
What's with the mad push? Why is it so aggressively? Listen, if this was the bubonic plague and people were dying in the street, or Ebola, fucking, you're bleeding out your eyes and your asshole, and then, okay, we might have a conversation.
Right.
But it's a bad flu.
I was going to say along those lines, like, don't get me wrong, having the vaccine definitely mitigates a lot of the issues. That's undeniable for the majority of the strains. And I think there are certain professions that should have to do it, healthcare workers and, people that are going to be in high contact, high risk scenarios. I don't think it should necessarily be a mandate, but strongly encouraged for those.
Sure.
But by that same regard, if we're dealing with one of the deadliest pandemics of our time, Portland's right here. Vancouver's starting to have a really bad homeless problem. Why homeless people typically don't mask up for a lot of stuff? Granted, I haven't spent a whole lot of time in homeless camps, but I don't see them washing their hands all that often. Why are they not dropping like flies? If again, this is the worst pandemic in history, and it affects everyone equally. Let's ignore people that are medically sensitive or at risk. But if it affects everyone equally, or everyone's equally at risk, great. Where are the bodies being stacked?
Right.
No,
it's an unfortunate. I mean, the flu's been cured apparently.
Yeah, that's the other thing is we mask up and suddenly the flu's gone. It's like, that's really strange.
It's been around for millennia upon millennia, and it changes. But that has been eradicated essentially. Obviously there's older people or the folks that have other health issues, I mean, I've never go so far as to say as I don't believe in the coronavirus. Clearly it's a real thing, but the level of hype to which it took certainly outweighs the reality of it.
Right.
I personally still, at this moment in my life, after a year and a half of all this stuff, I don't know anybody personally that has died from COVID. I do have some friends that are in nursing and other medical practices, and they have, people get labeled. For a stretch there was money that was getting paid if you got labeled a COVID death.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you get in a motorcycle wreck and you die from that, but then they go ahead and test your body and it has COVID antibodies in it. Now you died of COVID.
Right.
That's absurd.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with the 65-mile-an-hour concussion that you received, and multiple complex fractures.
Now, the whole thing is, I don't believe it's about health personally. I think it's about control. I think that it's a perfect thing that they utilized, I'm not going to say manufactured, but utilized to see how far they could push the envelope.
Yep. And
I'm sad to see how many people just acquiesce to the, authoritarian. I mean, it's 1984. I mean, it's really what it is. It's right there.
Definitely, yeah, a lot of aspects or
it's
correlations to be drawn.
It's so close. I mean, especially in Australia. I mean, I don't know if you guys keeping up on what's going on down there, but that shit's some scary stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And Austria. I mean, there's a few other European nations, and back to the gun thing, that's why we're not there, because we have the means and the methods and the constitutional rights to protect ourselves from that stuff.
Yeah. But with the constant attacks on those too, it's for how much longer?
No, there's I don't know, what is it? It's an old Chinese parable or whatever, where may you live in interesting times. We're there. I was raised pretty hardcore Christian. I think I probably went to church twice a week from 4 till 12 when I was fed up with it. But shit's unfolding, like some of that stuff was written down, I mean, the whole, again, whether it's the vaccine, the COVID passport thing, leading into chips, in your skin. You can't buy or sell shit without it. It's very interesting.
I was going to say, where are you there in, New York, LA
Yeah,
County, like...
Yeah, de Blasio. Did he say that yesterday or the day before?
Yeah.
Kids 5 to 11 have to show proof of vaccination to go into a public place. I mean, at some point, you'd think that people are just going to be fed up with it.
Yeah.
And
get tired of it.
Well, I mean, again, this whole thing would end tomorrow if everybody just said no.
Right.
Everybody just say no.
I mean, well, look what happened with Southwest Airlines. Pilots said, no, you want us to all, be vaccinated? No, we'll just walk off the job.
Or the police force or
right.
Firefighters.
Seattle's seen, 60% drop in officers. Meanwhile, this is fine. It's...
Well, so I don't see how this could all end positively unless it just kind of changes. I don't think it's ever going to go back. I don't think it can go back exactly the way that it was. Not that the way that it was perfect by any means, but just, the whole sequence of events that has taken place over the last couple of years, the defunding of the police, the BLM movement, the Antifas, the vaccine stuff. It's just so aggressive, that right. I think the eventually, I mean, whatever, we all got a hill that we'll die on.
Right.
Every one of us.
What's going to be that breaking point?
Every one of us has something, and it's funny, not funny. It's sad, actually. Just to think about how quick generationally, 3 generations ago, our grandparents, I mean, those guys were lining up to go fight a world war, to get off of boats, to get shot.
18-year-olds were getting mowed down on Normandy. And
we just had that was 80th anniversary yesterday, wasn't it? Of was that Pearl Harbor?
Pearl Harbor was the 7th, yeah.
But yeah, just to think about how quickly just the shift in societal thoughts, or actions, because I know, those guys wouldn't be tolerating the stuff that's being tolerated right now.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't think. My grandpa wasn't necessarily a hard ass, but he was definitely different. Those guys
cut from different cloth.
Well, it was. Yeah. I mean, everything, whether it's intended on purpose, happy accident by the powers that be, but you start disrupting core family values. You integrate, television and other media, and now with and I'm as guilty as the next guy of whatever, YouTubing or checking out some stupid shit on TikTok that makes me giggle or whatever. But the conditioning or the distraction of all of it, there's no fucking downtime 75 years ago. You're chopping wood, you're working in the garden, you're working on your car, you're fishing, you're hunting, you're all of those things that took place. I don't know if my grandpa obviously in his latter years when he was in his 80s and 90s, just couldn't do those things anymore. But I bet he didn't watch more than fucking 20 hours of TV in 50 years,
Yeah, there's always something to do. And I guess maybe life got easier or more convenient. But by that same regard, I'm guilty of it too. Like, I love to just lay in bed sometimes and just watch TikTok or watch YouTube I caught myself this morning, actually. I'm watching YouTube videos about video games that I could be playing, but I'm literally watching someone else play it. And it was the absurdity this morning. I was just like, I'm on like 45 minutes of this. I could have been doing something else for 45 minutes.
I know. I had that epiphany, about a decade or so ago. I was addicted to World of Warcraft for a couple of years. I've always been a gamer. I'm surprised I actually didn't get into the gaming field, but I'm a little bit between ages. They didn't have the gaming schools or whatever when I was in my late teens and early 20s. but I played hella Madden. But yeah, the World of Warcraft, because I was kind of a D&D nerd when I was younger. I like the role-playing games and stuff. It's fun to escape. And my buddy, he told me about that game, and I was like, I probably shouldn't even check it out. And then I did, and then it was like 3 years, and there was, what was it, /played. You just do a /played, and it tells you like all the time that you logged in on it.
Yeah, sunk into that.
Dude, it was almost a year. Now, granted, I would say half of that time was some stupid whatever, the bots might, whatever. It's just on. I'm not sitting there gaming or playing because I like doing like the raiding and the battles and stuff. That was more fun for me. I wasn't super into it like a lot of these other guys, spending real money on fake stuff, but I did that /play and it was like a year, and I'm like, fuck, dude, I could know Spanish, I could play the piano,
right.
I could have any number of skill sets, and I turned it off and I never turned it on again.
Yeah, instead of being in front of a screen or.
I've had every Madden game for the first 20 years, and I haven't turned it on now in 3 years. Ironically, I just bought the new one for shits and giggles. I haven't even opened it up out of the box yet. Just because whatever. I mean, I think it's fine to have some of those downtimes and to just, mush away and have a little competition, because I like playing the online stuff. Actually, one thing that stopped me from playing the online Madden was screaming at a fucking 12-year-old kid like I was going to murder him, because some bullshit glitch that he had figured out. And it's because me and my buddies played for, a decade and a half before there was even online options.
Right. I did that with my buddies for the original Halo. I'd have LAN parties at my apartment, and, we'd get 4 Xboxes all hooked up. We'd all drag our computer monitors or TVs over and order a bunch of pizzas,
sure,
get a bunch of vodka and get drunk,
start shooting things,
and those were my Friday and Saturday nights for a while. And
I caught my daughter's into watching other kids do shit. I know that's a big thing.
Yeah, it's streamers.
And I've thought, whatever. She's on YouTube Kids, and we police it pretty well. So I know that she's not getting inundated. The shit she's watching is stupid. It's harmless, but it's stupid. You know what I mean?
Mindless.
It's just, and I don't want to be too hard on her.
Is it was it Squishies?
Well, she did watch that for a while, where you cut the things in half and see what comes out of them.
And then also, like, you cut them and you can modify them and customize them. And my daughter was, like, always begging me for sandpaper and, like, art supplies to be able to, like, sand off certain features and then repaint them.
Interesting.
And, at least being creative, but at the same time, I'm like, so you watch 30 hours of, content, and then you do this for an hour, and then you get bored and frustrated, and then you want to just go back and start watching. Like, you don't spend any time like honing that skill of like creativity, and discovery, I guess.
Yeah.
Instead, you're just kind of copying what someone else is doing.
She has definitely been guilty of that a few different times. And again, I think as parents, we're guilty of yes, please watch this for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, I can't get shit done. As much as as much as we love our kids, you got to have time to do other things that, so they got to require certain sorts of distractions. But
right. Yeah, it's like running the machine shop. I do that like nights and weekends. And when I have my daughter, it's like, unfortunately, I'm going to either set her up on her tablet, at the shop, or, give her my other laptop, my gaming laptop, and let her play Roblox or whatever. Because, well, Dad's got to get some work done.
Right.
And I can't effectively like machine stuff out of metal using a very dangerous machine.
Fast moving parts.
Yeah, exactly. And watch, a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old. So yeah, definitely guilty of it as well. But yeah.
She's gotten very, I know everybody says this, that kids tend to play more with the boxes than they do with the toys themselves. Mm-hmm. But she's actually taken that to another level. I'm seriously, it'll be probably somewhat of a joke, but I am going to buy her like a 10-pack of U-Haul boxes that are pre-fat, just flattened out. Because she's made houses, she made a Burgerville, she's made planes. She actually made, after we watched Back to the Future series, she made a little I mean, it didn't look like a DeLorean, but the idea was it was a time machine, and she could actually wear it and lift the wing up and stuff. She comes up with very crafty shit. She made these little the Burgerville stuff, and she actually cut out like the size of my thumbnail, little fry case with fries sticking out of it.
Oh, that's
wrapped
cool.
A little burger for her little doll.
Yeah.
Her attention to detail is spectacular, which that is great because that is all creativity. Even though it's silly, it's still doing something in that regard. I think that she's got an engineer mind in some way. She likes to see how those little things, work and come together, but.
Oh, that's cool. Mine's similar as far as she loves architecture. And so she'll play like Roblox or other sort of like Minecraft-esque sort of games.
Okay.
And then just build these like massive houses. And, fully functional with like bedrooms and bathrooms and entryways and kitchens. And
Is that the Lego game? Is that
Roblox? It's kind of like Lego, but it's all online.
Because I got her, there's a Lego game for Xbox that I got her. I can't Lego World, something like that. Same thing. I was actually blown away because I was just, again, like I said, I think there's a lot of positive stuff from it. Hand-eye coordination, teamwork, if you're playing with other people.
Planning.
Yes. Formulating.
I played with a lot of Legos. I wasn't even interested in girls until 14.
Okay.
I was very much a late bloomer, but I was out riding my bike and then just building all these crazy Lego spaceships that I just freeform myself.
Right. They didn't have the kits back in the day.
Or my parents wouldn't buy me the Millennium Falcon kit because it was $200.
Sure.
So I'm going to figure out how to get all my parts from my other pieces and make it myself. And, and then took kind of a long route, but I followed in my father's footsteps of, running a machine shop. And now I can program and cut out, mill out the Millennium Falcon if I want to.
That'd be pretty cool.
A lot of those skills of like, I have a project in mind, I have raw material, how do I get to that end result? All were formulaic, and all of that was established in my childhood, playing with those kits.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how the brain works for them. Being an observer it's easier to see that in your offspring than it is yourself. A lot of times because it's just right there in front of you. But I'm always blown away by the stuff that she comes up with.
You're kind of too thick in the weeds, when it's yourself. And now, like you said, you can sit back as the observer and be like, oh, draw those correlations.
Well, it's fun too, trying to be the parent that you didn't have.
Right.
As well, because I know that, whatever, everybody does the best they can for the most part, but it would have been super cool to have, two loving parents that were encouraging you to do whatever, and giving you the opportunity to do whatever. Like I said, I actually met my biological father for the first time when I was 42.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, because he was 16 when I was born. And his mom actually wanted to get rid of me before I was born. And luckily my mom couldn't go through with that. But it was a definitely different, 180-degree different than what my daughter has growing up, as far as, if it wasn't for my grandma, I definitely would have been dead or in jail before I was 15 for sure. But that just being able to do those things, provide, watch, encourage, all that stuff, it's cool, especially, not having it. Whatever. I'm lucky that I had what I had, but because there's always somebody worse.
Right.
Everybody's got whatever. It's all relative. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say it's interesting that you brought that up. So my daughter's mother and I are separated.
Okay.
And, again, observing based off the story she told me, like she definitely tries to be far different than how her mother was and how her parents were, raising her up, again, like with that 180 difference. But I see myself as kind of the same as my dad, like working a lot, spending what time I can, but working lots of hours. And
well, somebody has to in a certain regard. You got to provide.
Yep.
So figuring out the ways to balance that stuff Because you were saying you were a late bloomer. I was an early bloomer. My sister was born when I was 12. That was my third stepdad when I was 12, and he was my stepdad until I was 19. He's still in my life. He's kind of he's the guy I consider my father figure. Mm-hmm. But once my sister was born, I was pretty much on my own at 12. We were going, me and my buddies, Matt and Larry and Jesse, we would, we'd be out till 12 o'clock on a school night. I mean, I had sex and had done acid and drank and smoked weed and cigarettes.
All at the same time?
When I was 13.
Okay.
Well, actually, when I was someday my kid's going to hear this, but no, I did 6 drugs on my 16th birthday.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I woke up on the floor of a garage, not remembering most of stuff. I definitely dodged many bullets, that's for sure. But yeah, when there's nobody policing your activities, you're
going to do kind of whatever you want to do, and not fully understanding consequences or choices, and at that age anyways.
No, it was all just chasing tail at an early age and playing games and all that stuff. And everything for me, whatever, we all have these different points in our life where you can look back and remember big forks.
Right.
A big change. Don't always take the right one, but I can remember several. And 19 was one of mine, because I was a 2-time high school dropout before I went back and graduated, just because I had to do it for myself. Because I don't want to say I have a great family, but typical white trash upbringing to a certain extent. Nobody had a lot of money. Uncle, in and out of jail. Had another uncle that OD'd on heroin. My aunt, whatever, a bunch of people. I don't want to be too descriptive on certain stuff, but coming from that stuff kind of seeing these different ways of going, I already knew that I was destined to either be dead or in jail if I didn't make certain changes. And I didn't make them all at the right time or soon enough or whatever, but I wanted just to be able to say that I graduated high school, even though it has fucking absolutely dog shit merit at this point. I mean, it means nothing, especially.
Isn't that frustrating?
It is.
We can tangent on that, but it's like, as growing up, it was always graduate high school, go to college, and at least for me, it was like, get your Eagle Scout. That's the trifecta of success to set you up for a good life, Brendan. And I managed to get two out of those 3. Still haven't gotten the college degree, but come to find out, the Eagle Scout thing looks decent on a college application, but beyond that, 6-month section of your life, no one cares. Skill set, sure.
Yeah, skill set, sure.
Skill set, the networking to an extent. I still maintain contact with a lot of the guys, but beyond that, it's like.
Yeah, never went to college. Never. I often say that I never had the opportunity. I never had the desire to put in the work that I would have had to do to go to college, because I didn't know what I was doing or what I wanted to do. Yeah. Sometimes I still don't know, but I most of the time.
One of these days you'll grow up and you'll discover.
Well, most people in retrospect, I don't know. I can't name somebody right off the top of my head that has a career in the path that they went to college for. You know what I mean? Most people go to college. The few people that I do know that actually did go to college, they, changed majors or got a totally different job, or they got a bachelor's in this and now they're driving a truck. You know what I mean? I mean, something that has absolutely nothing to do with it. I do regret on one hand, and actually am probably grateful that I didn't go to college, because I probably would have got myself in more trouble. But it would have been neat to have that experience, the dorm room life, that sort of thing, just to be able to.
There's definitely something to be said about that. I mean, I went to college for a couple years. I knew what I wanted to do. Wanted to do electrical engineering.
Smart.
And at some point in time, I was getting into my 30s and had my daughter, obviously, and she was growing up, and got really tired of working at 9 to 5 and then going to school and then working on schoolwork until midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then waking up at 6 to go back to work. And
it's a big hamster wheel.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if it doesn't necessarily have the off ramp that you want to take. It's
right.
kind of just going through motions and stuff like that. But that would have been fun. I got a job. I had a couple other little shitty jobs. I actually got into a car wreck I've been in 12 motor vehicle accidents. Not to segue into all that. Yeah, only driving in one of them. But 2 were rollover near-death experiences, and one of them definitely altered the course in a different way. I got, was I 19? So after 2-time dropout, I was almost going to go to Kentucky to live with my aunt and uncle, just to try to fucking get a restart and just go and, whatever, go there, graduate. And when I was when I went back to go to my senior year, they had said, you're not going to graduate. You don't have enough credits or whatever it was. And so, and then I missed the time to pick the classes. So it was like, fuck it. I didn't even want to do it. But I signed up for this class, or this program. I don't even know if it exists anymore, but it was called Life Skills. And essentially you could make up 3.5 years of high school credits. Back then you couldn't there was no college credits in high school. It was all very
no AP
standard,
classes or anything like that.
But this class, you could go, essentially you'd test in at a certain grade, and then you have to test out at a certain level, whatever, 12th level beyond, and then you go back to school. Well, I've always been smarter than the average bear, even though I couldn't contain a lot of I didn't corral it very well. But when I went in, because I was like, whatever, I was a guy and I always get A's and B's. I never studied. I probably did less than 10 hours of homework in my entire life. Okay. I fucking hated it. I hated homework. I hated that aspect of school, but I could always just kind of get through. I learned a lot by osmosis, just paying attention. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I went to this light. So right before I was going to go to Kentucky, I'll never forget this. I was taking a shower in my grandma's house. I was 18, and I was like within a week to go to Kentucky, and the phone call came, and I got in because this program was like over a year wait before you could get into it because it was so small. And so I went in, I tested above whatever 13th grade is how they had it maxed out at. I tested the 13th at everything except for math because I forgot how to do fractions. Because you don't remember, you don't practice that shit, and then you get into calculators or whatever. So I spent 6 weeks just working on math and reading a couple of books, and then I tested out. But the only rule is you go back to school as a senior, but you can't get any no credits, you can't get any fail, you can't fuck up at all. You got to be on the straight and narrow. And so I was 19 when I did that, when I went back to school, and I was in those 2 accidents at that time.
So 2 out of the 12 during that.
Yes, in that one, in a 6-week stretch. One, we went to Tri-City boat races. A friend of mine's dad owned Evergreen distribution center for Budweiser. And so we got to go out there and on the way back, and this was one trip that we were sober because we were with their parents and whatever. But my buddy was driving, it was a 1990 Jeep Cherokee, brand new, first car I'd ever been in that had electric windows. It was like super fancy. It was super fancy. And my buddy was driving in front.
No power steering. But electric windows.
Yeah, it's just everything. I mean, it's really with lots of lights, lots of bells and whistles. But my buddy was driving. His girl was sitting next to him. This girl I was trying to mac on that I never succeeded with was sitting next to me. And we're in the back seat. And we're just coming down 84. And he was messing with the mirror because I was ready to take a nap. I was just asleep because it's whatever, a couple hour drive. Anyway, he rolls my window up, rolls his window down, fiddle fucks around with the windows so he could spit out the window and not, hit me. And so I was appreciative of that gesture. However, in that moment, the freeway had just a little bend to it at the time and kind of went up on a little little medium bump or whatever. And it didn't seem like any big deal. And then he just kind of like tried to correct, well, it was a bunch of gravel. And we were probably doing, I don't know, 75-ish. Nothing outrageous, about the same as everybody else. But
gravel, like that.
Exactly. And it just caught, and just how, whatever, that was the first time he drove the car,
Yeah, a lot of new experiences, and all of a sudden now you're in a weird environment.
So we start going sideways. And then he overcorrects, and when we overcorrect, caught the lip on the thing. And I remember, there's a term for it, instantationnalism. I read it in a book. I can't remember, but it's that moment in time where everything slows down.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just leaned up to kind of see what the fuck was going on, looked over his shoulder. Right at that time, it was like that slow motion, the car started turning, we started going on the side. And then all I remember is looking at the dome light, and everything else around me seemed like a washing machine. And I was just looking at that dome light.
Wow, everything's
and it
fun.
felt like a minute or two. I don't know what the official count was. I think we rolled 5 or 6 times on the freeway. Glass, blood everywhere. The only thing I'd ever experienced at that time, or seen at that time, was movies, and the shit's going to blow up.
Right.
Whatever. Don't know.
Fuel tanks always explode.
I'm literally half in and half out of the back end of it. Like if it would have rolled another time, it probably would have tore me in half. Because I didn't have a seatbelt on. Mm-hmm. My buddy Matt, who was driving, he was a little guy, and he hung on to the steering wheel. Lindsay shattered her arm from like here to here on his head. The girl that was sitting next to me ended up underneath the car. Didn't know that at the time, so I crawl out, and again, dust. By the time I crawled out, there was just the whole freeway was lined up with people that had like pulled over, and there was, I don't know, 10 or 12 men that were pushing the car up to get that girl underneath out. And again, this is all just a big haze of excitement and tragedy all at once. And I remember making it probably about, 10 steps, and then I collapsed. And of course, the side, it's 90 maybe, hot as hell, big rocks on the side of that we're laying on, and my hands locked up like that, and my mouth went like that, because I don't know if I had like a mini stroke or if I don't know, but all I remember is my friend came up and looked at me, and he just started crying and walked away because he thought I was like paralyzed or fucked up or whatever. It was a lot of stuff going on at that moment. Right. And these couple of ladies came over and held blankets up, and she was like pouring water in my mouth. And anyway, it's a fucking long story. Ended up being okay. We had to go out to Hermiston, Oregon. I swear to God, the ambulance almost rolled getting us out there. Mm-hmm. The one girl got life flighted back. But anyway, so 6 weeks after that ordeal, I have a moon boot on and a neck brace on. And I call him my cousin just because my aunt and his uncle dated at one point, but we were just friends. They rented a 1991 Mustang 5.0 and went to the beach. And so they picked me up from school that day, and we were driving up Andreessen, and his girlfriend, I still don't know what the fuck she was doing, but it had a power shift or
or like Tiptronic sort of.
Yeah, I mean, it was, again, fancy back then.
Right.
I think she put it in park or reverse while we're flying up Andreessen. I mean, this is again 91, or actually it might have been 92 at the time. It was 92. Anyway, we're flying up the road, and she does something, and it just locks up, and the car just starts. We were doing 95 up Andreessen, just hauling ass stupid, and I wasn't into it because I'm still like recovering.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're 6 weeks post.
I didn't want to be in that situation.
Yeah.
But she locked it up, and we went sideways, and I just remember this Camaro coming right at us, and I grabbed the oh shit handle, and I just closed my eyes because I thought we were fucking toast. Right. And then the next thing you know, we're in the ditch. Somehow it missed us, we missed it. We rolled out. I got out. It was probably maybe a mile from my grandma's house. And I just got out, and I said, I'm fucking out of here. And I ran, because I didn't want to deal with the cops.
I was gonna say, even with the boot on, like you were still mobile enough.
The adrenaline was so hot and heavy. God, I'm a rambler. I'm sorry.
No,
but I ran to my grandma's house, super adrenalized. Didn't say anything to her. Didn't say anything to anybody, trying to get my wits about me. Because I had a piece of glass that was in my hand for over a year from that first accident. It was really weird how it finally emerged, but I was still licking my wounds from that one. I was like, this is insane. Anyway, my point of that being a life-changing story is I got some money. So I was supposed to get, whatever, attorneys are fucking shysters, they lie. And they say, we get you this money or that money. But because I got in those 2 accidents within a 6-week period, one insurance company was blaming the other one for my injuries and the other one was blaming the other ones.
Shocking.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, I ended up in the whole grand scheme of thing, I think I got like $6,000. I had, of course, like $50,000 hospital bill.
Right.
That I never paid. My credit was like shot, but I had enough of that money to pay off a couple of debts that I had, and I bought a shitty little Toyota Celica.
Mm-hmm.
And with that shitty little Toyota Celica, my grandma, God, she was the best. She told me, she said, you can stay here as long as you want, but you got to go to school or get a job. Mm-hmm. And, whatever. I remember.
Pretty decent.
Of course. She was, well, because again, I don't want to say she fucked up with her kids, but, we had a special bond, and so she didn't want to see me go down some of those other paths.
She kind of knew what worked and what didn't.
My aunt and
based
uncles,
off of her experience.
Yes, and our bloodline. I mean, we're all genetically predisposed to do certain things. And so I went down to the unemployment office and I found this job to do in this inspection gig. And that one job kind of got me into something that I otherwise wouldn't have found myself at. I don't know what. The other thing that I was entertaining at the time is that Fred Meyer's on 164th was brand new that year. Okay. And I remember studying to learn the prices of things because scanners, I think, were brand new back then. I mean, they existed, but you still had to know like what aisles or shit was on and, certain prices or whatever. So I was looking I probably would have ended up doing something like that, but I went and got this inspection gig and it was a unique thing. It wasn't like a home inspection thing. Anyway, I did that for a couple of years. I met a girl in Eugene, fell in love with her, lost focus on that job. So I went and worked at Kinko's. Because I had no college education, I had no real skill sets. I was like, all right, I got a good work ethic. If anything, I got a good work ethic.
And you had that high school diploma, which
and I
is
did.
worth so much.
At that moment, I felt that it had some value, to it. So I went to Kinko's thinking, I'm just going to get a corporate gig that I can work my way up to,
right.
And
yeah, kind of that traditional career path that we were told.
Well, the assistant manager at the time made like $65,000 a year. This is like 97, 98. And to me, that was a shit ton of money, Oh, yeah. I mean, there was a base salary and then there was some profit sharing thing. I was like, okay, I could, whatever. I started at $5.65 an hour working graveyard. And then I worked my way up to an assistant manager spot after about 6 years. Well, I liked the job, loved the people, great people. But shortly after I got in on it, it used to be franchised and then it became corporatized.
Right.
But then I'll never forget this day. Gary Cusin, that was the guy who fucking took over. He was the CEO and you could hustle your butt off with this company and you could get 2 reviews a year and you could get up to $1.25 an hour raise per review. Nobody ever got that because that was the, the carrot.
Right.
But I got whatever, 75 cents both times, and I was feeling good. I went from, in 6 years, I went from $5.65. It was $4.65, but I got the extra dollar because I worked the graveyard, up to $15.65 or whatever. So I made a nice little
pretty
increase.
Appreciable, yeah.
And I was getting I just wanted the profit sharing. That was my whole goal. Fucking the first month, after the first month of getting that gig, my first profit check was like $1,400 on top of and I was like, sweet, this is, I love it. Then this guy comes in and he changes it to where the most you could get in a raise was 25 cents. And then strip the profit sharing down to, I don't remember, let's say you got 8%, now you get 2%, whatever it was. Just fucking ruined it. So one night, because I did a lot of filler shifts. That was also cool about that job is you could fill in at other stores that they needed, and then if you got paid overtime, you got paid overtime.
Yeah.
So I was working a lot, and it was like 4 a.m. Internet's new, it was AOL was the big thing.
Dial-up is the thing.
Yeah. And so I sat there and I wrote a letter to the CEO of that company to tell him what a shitty job that he was doing and that he was ruining the company. And then, of course, 2 weeks later, I got fired. They drummed up some other thing. They never brought that up, but it's 100% had to do with that. There's no doubt in my mind. Mm-hmm. But then I went back to doing the inspection job, which I loved. And then
is this like home inspections? Or
no,
like
so it's a niche thing. It was basically for builders, banks, or title companies. So back, like the first big boom that happened in this area was in the late 90s. Mm-hmm. And so Umpqua Bank and Washington Mutual and Washington Federal, they were the banks for the builders. Well, there was a lot of shyster builders that were stealing shit or whatever. So I would go out and verify that I was basically doing the draws. So like the builder would be like, I need 30 grand for this. I would go out and make sure that they did what they said they were going to do. And then a couple other little side things, totally a niche thing. I mean, anyway, I went back to work for the guy. After a few years of being removed, because it was my favorite job of all time. Because I could get in a car. Now, mind you, there was no Sirius, there was no podcast, there was none of that. But there was just something about whatever, driving to Eugene one day, or driving to Tri-Cities another day, or driving just through the foothills of the Cascades for a weekend. And you go and you take some pictures, and that was actually even Polaroid back then. You take pictures, you make some notes, and then you get to go back in another month and see the progress. There's nobody harassing you, calling you about, somebody being mad about something. It was, you'd go, you do the job, you'd be done, and then you kind of get to do it again and see it all. I love that. And so the guy, I immediately was his rock star, and he made a bunch of promises to me, like to be a partner or buy in or whatever, and he just drug me along for a year. So I started my own company doing the exact same thing, and that was in 2004, and that company is still in existence, but it's definitely changed a lot, because in 2008, when the market collapsed, I think we went from, and again, this is just total, there was no overhead. It was me, my car, and my wife, girlfriend at the time, who was kind of doing the phone stuff. So it was really tight shipped.
Your costs essentially.
None. Gas and some maintenance in the car. But we did it. We did $111,000 in revenue. And we thought that was just, we were high on the hog. And then it went the next year after the crash to 22,000. So we went from 111 to 22 in 1 year. So she went back to waitressing, because that's kind of what she had done. And then at that time, my friend that I was one of my hooligan buddies in our teens, he asked if I wanted to start a construction company with him, because he was doing it for somebody else that he didn't like. Mm-hmm. He knew I was trustworthy. I was good with certain stuff. And then that was 2009 where we started the construction company that my wife now runs. I don't know how I got on that big long rampage of a tangent, but it's yeah. I think I was just the whole idea of not having a traditional college education, career, find yourself in. I mean, I found myself in a blessed spot, although whatever.
Yeah, maybe not the spot you wanted to end up in, but I mean, I had somewhat of a similar sort of path, from 12 to 18. I wanted nothing to do in life other than to, graduate high school with a diploma, go to Arizona State or Colorado State University on a mountain bike scholarship.
Oh, really?
I thought I was the cat's pajamas when it came to racing cross-country mountain bikes.
All right.
And then after that, go into the Marine Corps.
Okay.
And, I scored high enough with the ASVAB to get into intelligence, and kind of had that whole path lined up for myself outside of the mountain biking thing, because my grades were abysmal.
Sure.
I had no interest in school other than to get it done and then go out and ride my bike for 4 to 6 hours a day.
Wow.
I was pretty committed. And then going into my senior year, I fell 25 feet out of a tree and messed up 2 vertebrae in my lower back.
Yikes.
And
were you just fucking around climbing a tree, or?
Climbing a tree. I was doing a lot of rock climbing with the Boy Scouts at that time and introducing my brother into rock climbing. So we climbed the tree up. I got him all kitted up to do some rappelling to show him how to do it. I took my harness off because I gave it to him, and then I was climbing down. It was a cottonwood tree, and the branch I was standing on snapped, and I just plummeted.
How old were you at that time?
17.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's a shit age to have that happen.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's never a good age,
Yeah.
but.
So two vertebrae herniated, hairline fracture in my ankle. Recovery for that, it wasn't even properly diagnosed until I was almost 21 that I had back problems. And then that's finally when they were like, oh, yeah, you have herniated discs. Now, Here we are, years later, we'll try and fix it. But going into the recruiter, like, difficult to sit upright, let alone stand. Yeah, it was like all of those dreams of going into the service just disappeared. Barely could ride for probably about 8 months, which also devastated me.
Sure, that was your passion.
Constantly, it's either that or backpacking. Every single summer I'd go backpacking with my dad.
You were super active probably because of the scout stuff, right?
Yeah, it was one of those things where, one of those troops where every single month we were, as I got older, I think like 14 or 15, I got into the adventure crew, which is like advanced stuff. So rock climbing, kayaking.
The really fun stuff.
Yeah, the more dangerous, adrenaline junkie stuff. And yeah, couldn't do any of that for months, and it just killed me. And then finding out that I couldn't get into the Corps after literally spending like 6 years of my life dreaming of nothing but getting into the service and serving my country. Like, I was super aimless after graduating high school. Just didn't know what I wanted to do. And
what year was that? How old are you?
36.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're there, same.
Yeah. So, yeah, 03, graduated. Had a girlfriend at that time that, high school sweetheart sort of thing, and just didn't know what I wanted to do. And having her in my life also kind of diminished my want to go into the Marine Corps as well. So,
well, and hindsight, that might have been a blessing to not go. I mean, especially what transpired during those years.
Yeah.
I mean, especially being a Marine, you probably would have ended up in Afghanistan or Baghdad or
some place called Stan somewhere,
right?
And
maybe not be here right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know, but
yeah. But yeah, crazy. And then, like I said, aimless for a while, kind of picked up some menial jobs. And then 08, 09 hit, got let go from the place I'd been working at. Kind of sat at home for almost a year and just aimless. Had my daughter, got to spend a lot of time with her. Not as much quality time as I should have.
She was really young at that time, right?
Real young, and I just wasn't in a good place.
Headspace, right?
The genesis of her mother and I meeting, we had only known each other for about a month and a half before she got pregnant.
Oops.
And so it was like, oh, okay, so we're going to try and make something work out of this, and not really knowing each other and all that well. And
do you guys have a good relationship at this point, or?
Yeah. I mean, it's been tumultuous until recently, and we've honestly in the past, like probably a year before COVID hit, like really figured out like the co-parenting side of things.
That's good.
So it took a while, but.
Does she have other kids?
Nope.
No.
Just the one with me. So.
Do you plan on having any others?
No.
Not planning.
not planning on it.
But so. not saying no for sure. You're still young.
Yeah.
I mean, are you married now or what's?
Nope. No, just dating.
Gotcha.
So. But yeah, then spent like a decade working at Bowflex at Nautilus.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much everything that they've made in the past decade. Whether
the place up on 164th?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Yep. Yeah, so I
somebody
worked down
had there, worked there. I don't remember who it was, but somebody was there because I remember we'd get hooked
discounts
up. Yeah.
But yeah, I worked down the test lab doing all the prototyping and mechanical.
Bowflex. It's one of those ones where they did a hell of a job of marketing.
Oh, that department is.
I mean, I just remember watching the infomercials. You know, you're like, let's fucking get that thing. We'll get
ripped and just 30 minutes a day.
Those the little rubber band things. I remember the first time that I actually tried one. I was just like, wow, this is awkward, you know. I mean, it's like anything that's out there today. If you utilize it, you'll see some gains on it.
Yeah.
But I just remember the marketing part of that whole thing.
Yeah. But yeah, spent a decade out there. Worked with a guy to build out their whole entire digital app team, and really kind of helped establish the foundation for how that is right now. But yeah.
But 08, then that.
Oh, that was after 08.
That was
so
after the fact.
I worked there from 2010 to 2019.
Gotcha. What made you quit that?
I had a new startup that basically headhunted me and
Nice.
went and worked for them for almost 2 years and
Doing IT type stuff?
just
or
more
were you-
mobile application
Okay.
and program management. So that's kind of my specialty. And my day job when I'm not machining
Gotcha.
is making mobile apps and websites, working with teams either domestically or overseas.
Right on.
So,
Yeah, it trips me out how many freaking apps that there are.
oh yeah,
It just trips me out how to think about how just not that long ago there wasn't even an app.
right.
Not that long ago there wasn't even a smartphone.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, famously, like I had a manager at the time when I was just doing hardware testing and trying to convince management to like make an app. I think it was like 2012. This manager told me, he goes, "Oh, apps are a fad. They're going to be gone in a couple years." And I was like, "Well, there's this one called MyFitnessPal, and it's been around a little bit, and it's gaining a lot of steam. We should probably see if we can like partner with them and see if our products can integrate with the caloric burn side of it." And there's just no interest in being shot down immediately. And then like 2 years later, then they're like, "Hey, we want to get into mobile apps. Would you be interested? If you've expressed some interest in this, do you want to get in on the ground floor of building that team?" And
You asshole.
yeah,
Think how rich we would all be right now if you did it when I said.
2 years head start on everyone else. And
Yeah, I remember actually, whatever, I'm sure all of us have had these different ideas that would have made us rich if we would have either had the opportunity, sure, certainly, had the opportunity or means to make it happen. But
I was going to say, sorry to cut you off, but
Sure.
a buddy of mine told me about this internet coin called Bitcoin back in 2013.
Dude.
And we're playing Halo, and he's back home from college or whatever, and
Thank you.
tell me about this internet money. And I'm like, this sounds absurd.
Right, hokey as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, I'm going to rather spend my money on Microsoft points so I can download the new map pack or whatever. And looking back on that, I'm like, you fool, Brendan. Like,
Yeah, I didn't understand. I still don't really understand all of it. I've definitely dabbled a little bit since then. But I think it was 2000, maybe 17. I don't know, when it was around like $300 or $400,
yeah.
something like that.
2016 then, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's 2016. And it was the one thing. I give my ex-business partner credit for certain stuff, even though he was a sociopath. But he came to me one time talking about it, and I was just like, dude, it's hokey. I don't, But it's one of the things that he called out that just even then, I mean, in retrospect, even $5,000.
Right.
$5,000 into that to have 12 or 15, coins now. It would be insane. But I remember being probably around the 13, 14 age and talking, because this was right, let's see, what would that have been? 87-ish. I don't remember when the first brick phone actually came out.
It was
But
definitely late 80s. Yeah.
It was right. It was before we knew about it. I know that technology had existed, whatever, with DARPA or whoever's running the shit and back then. But we would be like, dude, it'd be so sweet if we could have a phone that we could call when we were around, and then like the car's license plates could be the number. So
Right.
when you see a hot chick in the car, you just dial the license plate and then you're talking to the hot chick in the car.
Right.
That was my mentality of it at that time. And it's crazy how much it's evolved. But the coin thing, for me, the biggest, we all have those. Yes. Okay. That one was a huge one. Because if you would have got in 2000, I mean, I don't even know what it was then.
It was about, I think like, it was either 80 cents or like $8 or something.
Whatever.
And for me, it was marketable because I'd come into some money at that time. And had I sat there and instead of buying an AR and alcohol and whatever I was buying at that age, had I put that money into Bitcoin, it's like cool multimillionaire now.
A lot more than millionaires, I'm sure. A millionaire. Yeah. But then again, you hear the horror stories of the locking it on a fucking USB drive or whatever. Right. How do you get to it? You know?
Yeah, or a hard drive in a computer that I threw out.
You just forget. Somebody it's fucking in Big Bang Theory had an episode about that.
Yep.
But
the frustrating thing for me is like I even went back through all of my, not necessarily search history, but like all of the visited websites, I guess, which is search history. So at the time there was only one exchange that you could get Bitcoin on. It was called Mt. Gox.
Random.
Yeah. It was Magic the Gathering online exchange.
Okay.
And
I never got into that, but that makes sense. At some point it switched over. There's a couple geeks that just got together and figured it out.
Exactly. But at some point it became a Bitcoin exchange, and it was like the very first exchange. And I went back and I found out that I actually like had created an account and then had stopped when it needed me to wire money. Because
you're like, why I'm not giving...
Yeah, I'm not
giving somebody my money.
I'm in my 20s, like early 20s, like what's a wire? Like,
sure.
I missed that part of high school.
It's all foreign.
Right. And so it's like, again, like, God, if I had done that, just gone down to the bank and just been, I was a super introverted, shy kid. And so if I'd gotten out of my comfort
shell a little bit.
Yeah,
right.
If I'd gotten out of my comfort zone a little bit and just gone down to the bank and said, hey, what's a wire and how do I do this?
Sure, you probably could have parted with $5 or $10 without much hesitancy.
Right. Yeah, $100.
Sure.
Like, yeah.
Sure.
And then again, like one of those inflection points in life, like would have changed the course of history for me. Yeah,
there's a few of those things. I never was in tune because again, I didn't have shit guidance or no guidance. And then you turn to peers, and most of my peers were, drug-addled hooligans. They don't really know much of anything. I mean, whatever. We definitely dealt in that arena for a lot of my life, try to pay for my own habits and maybe a little bit on the side. But I didn't know whatever the stocks, like the Amazon, the Microsofts, the IBMs, whatever, just all those bulls now that are just so big. Right. Never had any idea. But when the 2008 market happened, we were not well off, but I knew at the time that it was temporary. I didn't know to what extent. It's not like
just a huge correction, essentially.
Sure, and I had a feeling. I didn't do any research or didn't look at any historical data or any of that. I just said, okay, some of these things they're gonna turn back around.
Right.
And I bought Sirius, as that was before Sirius and XM merged.
You're right.
I think Howard Stern just got there.
Okay, so you just left terrestrial.
Yeah, I think it was that. I think it was like right around that year. So I knew it was big hype, and I had one of the very first when I was doing my own business, doing those inspections. At that time, I had the satellite on the car, the little magnet thing you put up there, and you had the little dial. And so I was listening to a lot of Howard and Bubba the Love Sponge. Was what I was into at that time, and I don't remember how much I bought, but the stock went down to like 11 cents or 9 cents. I don't know, it was something. And I basically took like everything that we had at the time, which might have been like $3,000, $4,000. And I bought a bunch of that. And then was it GE? Something else that was kind of reputable enough that it wasn't going to go away.
Right.
I didn't know how much return, whatever, but I turned that $3,000 into like $11,000 in less than a year. It was like actually like 6 or 8 months.
That's not bad at all.
Because it was right as whatever. Anyway, I sold the Sirius. I think I sold it when it was at maybe 60 cents ish, somewhere around there. Like I said, I didn't have anything in there. And of course, it ended up going to like $6 or whatever. But I needed it. I needed that money at that time.
Yeah, there's always that.
So we had to pay the mortgage. Because after that, I bought my house my goal was to buy my first house before my 30th birthday, or on whatever. And so we had the housewarming at my house. Hari's been there. That was the house we were at for 17 years, on my 30th birthday. And 2 weeks later is when I got fired from Kinko's. And so, that whatever, it was just so close to like losing, because I had taken all of my 401k money to get my down payment on that
so
house.
Everything was sunk into
it was all of it. And so, and again, we didn't have enough time to build up over that 5 years to really, establish anything. So that money that we made off of that stocks was really good. Anyway, my point of that story is that when the fucking COVID shit hit in March, I knew the same thing was going to happen.
Right.
And although we were vastly more stable than we were in 2008, it was still, the business, the construction, not knowing what was going to happen. It was still really scary. And whenever you own your own business, you have to leave the bulk of your money in that business.
Right.
You don't get to enjoy those spoils at that time. That was one of the things that my partner couldn't understand. Although we're paying fucking taxes like we were. Right. Because the government thinks that we have that money. Yeah. We don't have that money.
They certainly enjoy their 36 to 42%.
So but I remember sitting there looking, and I didn't know how much money that we had, or how much, because that was in March. We hadn't done our taxes yet, because you're, or whatever, perpetually filing extensions, right, being self-employed. But I didn't know what we were going to have. And I'm looking at Ethereum, okay? And I knew because of the Bitcoin stuff, what had happened. Again, no knowledge about cryptos to any real legitimate extent, just that they existed, right, and that there's a lot of them. And, the big players or whatever, obviously. And at that time, I think Bitcoin dropped to like $3,000, right, whatever, at that time, and that was way too much of a bite. I was like, what, I'm going to buy two? I didn't exactly. I just didn't, and it didn't. Of course, never would have thought that it would have gone to 60 or whatever. But there was something about the Ethereum, and it was $80. I remember looking at the screen, going $80, and my wife fucking hates this about me. She calls me, I'm the king of the coulda, woulda, shoulda. Okay. And I'm sure that most guys are like that, because I'm an overanalyzer at times. I like to research stuff. I like to feel comfortable with stuff. And even when I do that to the nth degree, pulling the trigger is really hard. Right.
You're trying to mitigate as much risk as you can and have as much of a clear picture. But unfortunately, you're dealing with an asset that's highly volatile.
I got a daughter. The business, not sure what's going on. And so that, for me, because I got a buddy, Amazon was his thing. He could have got in on it when it was like $30 or whatever. But I was looking at that too. I was looking at Amazon. I'm like, fuck, even right here, I'm kicking myself even more. Because the Ethereum was something I had no idea, but I knew Amazon was going to be bigger, right, because fucking people are going to want shit to come to their house. If there's a real pandemic going on and you can't go to the store, you need somebody to show up. I knew Netflix was going to do good, because you're going to sit around. And again, this was before they started giving away the free money, and people actually, you had to be a miser for that couple of months, not knowing what was going to happen. But fuck, man, we ended up having, and by way more money than I thought. It still wasn't an exorbitant amount. And I never, when you play those games in your mind, I never would have bought 1,000 shares of Ethereum, because that'd have been $80,000. That basically would have been absolutely everything that we possibly could have scrounged together. I might have bought $8,000 worth, got 100 of them instead of 1,000 of them. But that fucking $80,000 would be like, I don't know what it is today or whatever, but $4.5 million.
Yeah, 4,000.
It was $4.5 million that would have been, and it's just like, that one hurts. Right. That one fucking hurts, man. Because those sorts of things. I'm not saying it ain't gonna happen again, because it will. Something's gonna
Yeah.
something will do something like it again, whether it's crypto or some other industry. There's always something that's going to balloon. But that was one that I fucking had. My laptop was, I have one of those guys that got 40 tabs open at any given time. And one of them was right there on that Ethereum thing.
Coinbase buy.
Just trying to figure out, should I do it? What should I do? I didn't do it. And whatever, that one hurts.
That was one thing. So I played around in crypto starting in like 2016.
Okay.
And I would have made some money, didn't see the crash. A lot of stuff was going on. And so, going into 2018, after I lost a bunch of money after that last crash, I said, okay, great. Brendan, you have to start making these high risk plays. You have to start paying attention. And you have to do something. At that point, I was still living paycheck to paycheck. In my 30s, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, why am I not further along in life than where I am right now? And I was like, well,
there's a number of reasons.
but law of vices and what have you. I was like, you gotta get your shit together. Gotta start investing. Start figuring your stuff out. So when COVID hit, I had some money in crypto, but I had a bunch of money in stocks. And luckily, they were in industries that weren't necessarily hit, but I pulled everything out right around March, and I bought Netflix, Zoom, and a couple other like teleconference, video chat. I wish I bought Amazon or Tesla, especially with the splits and everything. But that was one thing.
Okay.
Doing okay, and again, came into some money in 2019 and threw that into crypto and doing pretty decent. But that was that was the harsh lesson for me in 2018. I was like, and after doing the Bitcoin and realizing how much money, I was like, you got to take these risks.
No risk, no reward. I mean, that's
being safe, and then also dealing with my vices too much. Had to dial all that back, and unfortunately didn't really have much self-restraint until my 30s, and then till the past year or two really dialed things back and finally starting to get my shit together.
Well, better late than never, right?
Right.
I mean, there's always those things that we can improve upon. So I'm definitely a big fan of bourbon, and that's my weak link at this point is...
Yeah, bourbon and cigars.
Cigars?
Yeah.
I never got into cigars. It's funny, I actually bought two of this for the Arizona golf trip, and I never even smoked one. I probably smoked, 10 cigars maybe in my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So funny enough, golf is what got me into cigars.
Interesting.
I'd play with a buddy of mine and, smoke a stogie while we're out playing, and I'd occasionally take a nip, depending on how late in the morning it was.
Sure.
And
8:30.
Tea time's at 7:30ish, and it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So
you got to have some swing lube.
Right.
Got to be relaxed.
But
No, one of my buddy Mike, one of the guys that were down there. I'm about 10 years younger than all of them, but he always has his little case of cigars, and that was pretty much the only time that I'd ever actually smoke one. But I don't know, I maybe finished one.
Okay.
Because almost always, he had the little clip on the cart or on the ground, or I didn't have that.
Makes more of a pain.
I'd set it in the cup holder or on the ice box or whatever, and then drive away and be like, oh fuck. I left so many more behind. I never really got it, but I bought two. One of my other stepbrother, they're twins, not the hippie in Canada that I talked about earlier, but this one's down in where's he in? Ashland, I think somewhere. He's part of the St. Daime Church. Do a lot of ayahuasca and stuff like that, but. For his 40th birthday. I think it was 40th. Wait, how old am I now? 48. I think it was his 40th birthday. He was talking about, no, it wasn't his birthday. It was some celebratory thing. And he was talking about some cigar. God, what was the name of it? I know you would know the name of it if I said it. So I bought him a box. Mm-hmm. It was like, whatever, $180 for a box of 10. They're supposedly good cigars. He raved about them or whatever, but I bought that one. It was something Robusta. Robusta is just a type, right? That's just a style.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of this one.
Like a Patron?
Yeah.
Or Patron. Yep.
That was it.
Yeah, so those
because it was his 60th anniversary Patron box is what I got him for whatever thing he was about to celebrate. So when I was down there, I went into the cigar room at Total Wine & More, getting my bourbon, and I bought one of those, and then something about like my father, or my dad.
My father's. Yeah, those are solid ones as well.
They had two. So I've got 2 fucking cigars that are sitting in my golf bag right now that I never even busted out.
Yeah.
Well, because we were staying in a condo, and you can't smoke
easily.
there.
Yeah.
We played poker one night, which would have been the ideal time to actually have one, because I think that would be more enjoyable than even being on the golf course, but couldn't smoke inside.
Yeah.
So what's your handicap? Do you play anymore?
Oh, I always shot like in the 110 to 120s. It was mainly
just more for fun. So just get out.
Fun, networking. As the machine shop business was super young at that point in time. And I thought I'd be making a bunch of business connections for that industry out there. And so, yeah,
right on.
It was more for fun and more to drink and hang out with the guys and burn away a Sunday morning, early afternoon, get 5 miles of walking in.
Yeah, you definitely get some exercise. It's a lot harder than most people think. If you don't golf,
yeah,
the guys on TV make it look super easy.
And then, depending on how much, as you called it, swing
lube
you've had.
Well, there's that fine line. You get to the certain spot and everything's glorious, and then you'll either have too much and the wheels will fall off, or if you're just straight fucking hack, then just get drunk.
Right.
Fuck it. Yeah. But I didn't even touch a golf club till I was 28, and then I didn't even play at all for real until I think I bought my first set when I was like 32. It was one of those ones, the hokey tent set up with a couple old geezers in there trying to hustle you and sell you whatever crap that they had. And I think I paid $100 for my first set. Maybe played Pinecrest. I think that was the first place I went to go cut my teeth. Okay. Played with a couple other guys that nobody knew what they were doing. You know, we went up there, did that for, I don't know, maybe 10 years or so. And then 5 years ago, one of my employees hooked me up with a golf club called Northwest Golf Guys. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not.
No.
Shout out to Travis. He started it, I think it's 2009. It was right around the same time I did my construction company. Anyway, it's just a golf club. You pay X amount of money. One of my buddies told me about it about 10 years ago because they used it just to get the GIN number for different tournaments or whatever. Most people didn't even do what he was doing. I guess at that time it was like once a month. But I've played more golf in the last 5 years than I have my entire life combined, like 10 times over. Okay. And what's great about that golf club is every 3 weeks there's a new location. So the Langdon, the Reserve, fucking Heron Lakes, Camas Meadows. Right. So it keeps variety going. You get a little discount. It's like $65 to $75 to golf around. And you get to go to all those different places. And then you can buy in for skins, like $5 for net or gross. And then if you actually win, you can make some money. The very first year that I did it, I ended up winning like $900.
Oh, not so shabby at all. Yeah.
Almost paid for itself. And again, I mean, I was terrible, but it uses your handicap, and you play guys that are like skilled as you are. And then this last year, moving out to Battleground, I have not played one because it's fucking far. Right. It takes me an hour and 10 minutes to get to the Reserve. So to go to the Reserve, and then these tournaments are long. They're like they can be 5.5 hours when it should be 4.5 hours, but it's all very, there's no gimmies, there's no picking up. It's not playing with your buddies where you got a foot wedge over here or there. It's strict. A little more serious, yeah. It is, which is fine. I mean, I like it, but so I didn't do any regular tournaments. I missed every single one this last year, but I did every travel event. So as he's gotten more...
got more members.
There's a lot of members now. He's got... started off with just Northwest Golf Guys, but now he's got a Seattle, SoCal, NoCal. I think he's even actually looking at going to Arizona, but I got to play Pebble Beach this year.
Oh, cool.
Which was really neat to be able to play at a place that I played on Tiger Woods,
PGA
fucking
Tour.
1,000 times. Yeah, PGA before it was Tiger Woods. Yes, I love that game. But playing those courses, you know, the iconic was that hole 7 when he came up the hill, and just being there was just really cool. I was shooting like shit because there was a lot of nerves, but I parred 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14. But then I had like 3 triples in there as well, you know. So I ended up shooting like a 96 or whatever. But whatever, it's fun. It's really fun.
A score I could dream of.
It was fun. But we got to do that. We went to Palm Springs. They always do a Bend trip. Bandon trip is every March. I'm going to Bandon again in March. I don't know if you ever had the opportunity to go to Bandon. I mean, even if you are, whatever, even if you're not a good golfer, I would still recommend it would be a place to go just for the experience. Because I think right now there's 5 courses out there. Yeah, they got 5 courses out there now. And I believe that 3 of them are in the top 20 in the nation as far as ratings. I mean, again, I'm so out of my league I've been so blessed to be able to play some incredible golf and have no business playing any of them. Because with the construction company, you buy a lot of materials from places. Right. You get like points, or they send you to trips, or you know, whatever the deal is. So I got to go to Costa Rica once. I got to go to the Dominican Republic once, which to this day, that's probably the most epic course I ever played. It was so beautiful. The sand was crazy, but the wind was so intense that you had to actually shoot a driver out into the ocean for the wind to catch it, to bring it back maybe 130 yards. Oh, wow. Like out. I mean, it was 35 mile an hour sustained. Super intense. It was very crazy, but it was super fun. I've been able to golf all over the place, and I kicked myself for not, I guess I can still do this in retrospect, but have a wall where you keep like the little ball markers or something, just to kind of have that
commemorative wall.
Because I did that with my shot glass collection when I was probably your age. I said that I'll have all these shot glasses from all over the place, and when I'm an old man, I'll just look at them, and I may not remember, but it'll give me something to kind of like trigger back to, like, yeah, I was here, I was there, I did all that stuff. But I've got a lot of shot glasses, that's for sure. More than ball markers, but yeah, that club is fun. So going back to Bandon in March, I wish I was better, but I got lessons. I was down to a 13 handicap, and then I went to Golf Tech over at Cascade Station. Yeah, and they just fucked me up.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it was really cool at first because they got the simulator and the cameras and, you know, the swing coach. And the first dude that I had, oh God, I can't remember his name. He was okay. He was a little douchey. He was like, PGA Tour. My dad was a PGA Tour guy, pro, blah, blah, blah. You know, he's one of those kids that obviously just didn't really have to do a lot growing up.
Kind of grew on the coattails of his dad.
100%. Yeah. But he was decent. I mean, whatever. He was okay. I was actually with that guy for like 2 years, and I was making a little bit of progress with him, but it was like, it was more about hearing his stories of, you know, him partying the night before than focused on my golf game. You know what I mean? And I'm a personable guy, and I wasn't taking it too seriously. I just wanted to get a little bit better. I just wanted to have, have more fun, because that sweet spot, man, it's really cool to make that fucking ball go 200 yards where you want it to go. That's a neat feeling, you know?
It's a fun skill to have.
It's really cool. I love it. But then whatever, he moved. They'd put you up to a screen and be like, okay, well, just okay, look at Dustin Johnson. Okay, now just swing like him. I mean, that was kind of like the level of teaching.
Coaching.
Yes, it wasn't. Yeah. I need like a RoboCop machine or something that, because it's the muscle memory. Yeah. You know, I need somebody to touch me, hold my hands, make me do these things, because watching something and trying to replicate it, I learned incorrectly from the get-go, so I can't relearn it without
having to unlearn all of that muscle memory and then rebuild. Yeah,
can't do it. So yeah, I got all the way back up to like a 19 handicap, and so I just never went back. I still have a bunch of lessons, but they fucking wanted you to wear a mask during COVID, and I was like, not gonna do that.
Yeah,
so
that's
dumb.
Not not something in the realm of what I want to do. Yeah, I was going to say almost the same. Obviously, I mentioned I shoot a lot. And so I've been working more on long distance. For me, long distance, which is basically anything 400 meters or out.
Holy shit.
And,
that's legit.
Oh, the guys I work with, they start at double that.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I remember never palled around with guys that are that hardcore, but whatever the sniper movies talk about, the 1,000-yard shot or whatever it is, but I can't even imagine.
It's guys from JBLM.
But how big of us, you got to have 20 acres to even have space to do that, don't you? Or go to the forest?
We have a place out west of Olympia that we go to.
Okay.
And they already have pre-designated targets out there, IPSEC targets, which are, was it like 24 by 40?
Like a torso?
Basically, yeah. Human-sized torso with a head. And some of those guys, first shot, they're in these crazy supine positions, 14.5-inch barrel, which on a 5.56 is, it's not the longest, but it's functional. And, 900-meter shot, just, first shot, miss, kind of range it, and then boom, second shot, just pop.
Plink.
Yeah.
That would be really, really fun. Yeah, I like I said, we got acreage out in Battleground, and I don't think I'll have the same neighbor problems that my friend had, but I definitely, one of my goals is to have a range out there. I don't think I could get much more than 200 yards. Yeah. Actually, I don't even know if I could quite get 200, probably 150. I mean, whatever. The reality is when I'm going to need to use it, it's going to be 10 yards or less. Yes. Yeah. No, I definitely, but I want to get a lot more target practice. I'd have to connect with you.
We'll have to link up after this.
I would totally enjoy doing that. And I got a couple friends that would enjoy doing that too.
But anyways, you were mentioning like the satisfaction of, there's also a huge amount of satisfaction in, popping that, getting your fundamentals all lined up and then popping that shot off and then just waiting for that second and a half hang time and cling.
I know I actually went and, like I said, whatever. When all this stuff first happened, I didn't know what was going to go on. And I had a couple little things, but, I was one of those dudes in lines at the Sportsman Warehouse or whatever, just, you never have enough of anything. Right. You can't have enough of anything.
Especially toilet paper.
Which is so funny. Oh my God. I totally shouldn't say this, but I'm going to anyway. So I didn't hoard anything at that time. I'm a Costco whore. And whatever. It's one of my favorite places to go. So inevitably, whenever the Charmin is on sale, I would just buy it, whether or not I needed it. It didn't matter. So when all this stuff actually first happened, I probably had, 400 rolls of toilet paper.
Yeah,
I was fine on that end. And I had plenty of other, in fact, my wife, she was just like, oh, because we were in Bandon when it first happened. So, actually we were in Hawaii. We're blessed enough to do an annual trip to Maui because of business. We got points on our card. So use the points for flights. We stayed at the same place. I think we did it like 6 or 7 years in a row. And went down, saw my aunt and uncle for Thanksgiving. Then we went to Huntington Beach in January of 2020 for business. And then went to Hawaii in February. And that was just kind of started getting talked about, still wasn't really known what was going on. Really wasn't even on our radar. And then, got back from that and then had the golf trip set up in March. And that's when it was like me and my 3 buddies are driving down to Bandon and all 3 of our wives, we're all talking and texting or whatever. And they're like, people are really fucking, starting to freak out and there's some shit. And we're just like, we all said, go drop, $400 or $500 at Costco, get a bunch of canned food, just whatever, get whatever.
Load up.
We don't know, just get whatever. And then we go to Bandon. We were actually jokingly talking about, we stopped at our one friend's house who has a house at Newport. On our way, we went that way so we could stay the night, try to break the drive up. And one of my buddies was like, hey, we should watch Contagion, because I'd never seen it.
Yeah.
I had never seen it. And then there was like enough of a buildup from the first time that was spoken to when it actually came time to watch it that we were like, yeah, I don't know if we want to watch that, because if that's how it's going to go.
Too freaked out.
Just whatever. Anyway, so we go down to Bandon, and then we were actually joking about how cool it'd be to get, hey, babe, sorry. Yeah, they're locking us down. We can't leave Bandon. We have to stay here for 2 weeks, Yeah. Obviously, we'd want to be home with our families, but it was just kind of a joke. But yeah, I came back, and I don't know, probably a couple weeks after we getting back, we were with a couple other people, because we never really... We chose not to really alter our existence. Mm-hmm. We hung out with the people that were willing to hang out with us. Right. You know what I mean? I wasn't scared of it really at any given point after once the reality of what it was. But anyway, my wife looks at me, she's like, you're fucking excited, aren't you? And I'm like, no, I'm not excited, as I say with a smirk on my face, but I knew that if this was a legit thing, that we're good. I mean, to a certain extent, we're at that moment, in all honesty, even if the water got turned off, we could have made it 9 months without leaving my house based on all the stuff that, we had acquired. But because I never got in on the Y2K thing. I didn't fall at that point in time. I didn't get red pilled quite yet. It was right around then. 9/11 is a red pill, but that's a whole other podcast. We can't even start that conversation. That's how me and Hari kind of got connected over some of that stuff. But anyway, I definitely was intrigued about the December 21st, 2012, the Mayan calendar thing, right? Because a lot of my mental explorations have always, for whatever reason, like I said, you got 40 tabs open, you're reading shit, you click links, and you go here and you go there.
Down the rabbit hole.
Almost inevitably, I would circle back around to like the megalithic sites, the Teotihuacan, the Machu Picchu, the pyramids, whatever. Just for whatever reason, I don't know why, but those are the things that I kind of ended up on. Just those, the Tritholon's ton, I can't remember the name of it, the Lebanon, the Baalbek, the fucking 1,100 ton stones that are cut out. I mean, shit, that's way beyond what we could even do today. Yeah. It's mind blowing. I'm just fascinated by that shit. Totally fascinated. But anyway, I would get circle back around to that stuff. Shit, I lost my train of thought. So the 2012 thing, because it also, my daughter's, the initial due date for my daughter was December 21st of 2012. Okay. And so that kind of just added a little bit of mystery to the whole thing. And then something got changed to like the 23rd or whatever. And then, so I was moderately like starting to kind of, and I hate what was that show? Survival Prepper.
Oh, Prep. Yeah, I think it was Preppers.
Yeah. I mean, because a lot of those guys were definitely, whatever, it was a show. It's like fucking Storage Wars. Just hype it all up. But it was interesting to me because, whatever, I was a Boy Scout for a little bit, not like what you were doing, but, you'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Right. I'd rather be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war.
Love that. Never heard that. Okay, I'm going to bite that.
I think Sun Tzu.
Yeah, never heard that. But yeah, so I was like, around that time, and of course, Jen's fucking 9 months pregnant or however far along, and I'm talking to her about the end of the world and all this other shit. But after that came and went, then I just wanted my daughter to have a cool birthday. That was my main. And she ended up being born on the 3rd, so her birth date is 1313.
Oh, that's
which
cool.
13's our family number. But anyway, that was the first time where I kind of really got involved in like collecting stuff and prepping a little bit here and there. And by time 2020 rolled around, I had a nice little stockpile of stuff, and I certainly wasn't excited, but I was grateful that I had what I had, because if it would have been what they claimed it was going to be, then we would be fine. Although I don't know how far down
how much more on this timeline that we have per se.
Well, I mean, who wants to live through fucking Armageddon, really? You know what I mean? Because it's pretty dark. You start thinking about that. But from a young age, I always said that we're going to end up as a society at either Star Trek or Mad Max. And I think that we have to go through Mad Max before we get to Star Trek. Yeah. And I still kind of think that to a certain extent. Yeah. So when it all went down, I was just like, I'm not excited. I'm just grateful, that I had. And of course, I was always more open about the things that I was interested in than I should have been, because I know that people would be fucking knocking on my door that, look, you want to give me some money to help like stockpile for you? Fine. But don't show up at the 11th hour thinking that I'm going to save you.
With your hands out.
Because you can't. I did it for my wife and my daughter. And then.
The reality of the situation is as much as I would love to, there's only so much I can do.
Correct.
And, COVID and kind of things leading up to that. Definitely that's what got me to start doing some training, not only on the firearms side, but also on the medical side of things.
That's brilliant. That's where I'm a pussy, dude. There's no way. I got to have, in my mind, I've got my massage gal, who knows mechanics of bodies and, light healing. Right. I've got a nurse, there's a couple of nurses in our lives. Like they need to, I've got spots on my compound for people that have those certain skill sets that I just can't do.
Yeah, I mean, my whole life I've been a generalist, not necessarily a specialist.
Sure.
But ultimately I figure if I can punch holes, I need to be able to patch them as well.
Yeah, I would definitely struggle with that.
Yeah, and then getting more into the homesteading. I live out in East Vancouver right now, but it's either find property out in the Washougal area or further out east, or after watching Preppers, I would love to have a missile silo, and I've actually I've been looking at a few like in Kansas, and
but you can't live in Kansas.
I really don't want to live in Kansas.
You can't live in Kansas.
If I did that, I would have to get my small pilot's license, which I have been looking into as well.
Okay.
But I've found a facility that for about $600K that I could buy, and it's already pretty set up, but I'd have to drop some more money into it. But at the end of the day, I'd be like, it'd be so cool to have a 175-foot deep missile silo.
Fuck yeah.
Multi-level. I can throw the machine shop in there. I can have a small CQB training facility.
Yes.
Yeah, on 10 acres. Like, it'd be super cool. But you're right. I'm in Kansas.
There's nothing. You can't live in Kansas. No. Man, most of those silo places are out there. I know there's a couple of, like, caved areas out here that if you had to get somewhere underneath. I mean, whatever. If it's a nuclear, I don't think it'd be a nuclear thing. I think that too many people would. I don't think that'll ever. I think it's just always been a threat. It's just to keep everybody in check. But you fucking lay waste to the land. Nobody's using it for generations.
Exactly.
I don't see anybody doing that. But
you're sterilizing land that could better be used for something else. And
no, if I was gonna look right now for something, because I don't know, man. The whole fucking West Coast is insane with the political ideologies that they hold. We are right in the heart of the crazies. Yeah. But
at the same time, like, I don't want to move.
No,
because
I get it.
That gives more essentially, and I hate to kind of lump it in, but basically more liberal-leaning people more of a voice. Sure. And not that they shouldn't have a voice. I don't think the solution, if you disagree with something, is to just flee. And that's... I've had several friends that have been moving to Montana, Idaho, Texas, and it's like, I get it, but the fact that you're leaving now means that our voices are now lesser, and not that our voices don't matter now, but we aren't being heard as much. And my issue, like you said, you're in Battleground, Washington is essentially controlled by 3 counties out of the 33.
Pierce, King, and Clark.
And Thurston.
Sure, yeah.
And, looking at the last gubernatorial race, literally those 3 counties, the fact that the population density is so high in them that they're able to overrule the remaining 30 counties. I mean, Inslee only won. It was like barely won 8 counties and then handily won those 3. So right. 11 of the 33, 8 of which he barely won, now keeps him basically in power, even though, based off the land-wise, 2/3 of the state doesn't want him.
Sure. It's the same in Oregon. I think it's the same in California. I think it's the if you were to, and again, I hate the blue-red arguments because it's so much deeper than that, but since that's what the maps show on color, but I think that where there's more red or conservative, I should say, thinking than there is the other side, but they're so they were so vocal or so loud that it almost, and especially this fucking dude, how many can we, I don't want to be just ramp.
No,
I go on for fucking ever, dude. This is not,
I think Hari said we had like 4 hours.
He doesn't want to be here for 4 hours. Anyway, the whole idea that the cancel culture, you speak out against certain things. There was that time period. I think it's still lingering. I think it's waning now, but it's still lingering, especially in like the really heavy, hardcore liberal stuff. And when I say liberal, it's the new age stuff. The
very left
hardcore where everything, the socialism, the Marxism, where that's a good thing. Dude, fucking go live in Venezuela and telling me how you think about fucking socialism working out.
Yeah. How was Russia back in the 90s?
Well, and that's kind of perfect example. It's just the conditioning of the generation that we're in now. I don't even know what it's called now. Millennial or Z or whatever. Well, whatever. And I know that that's a very broad brush of a stroke for the people that think like that, but they've, once upon a time, I would have been more liberal or left-leaning, at least socially thinking. But once you have a family, have a business, have a little bit of money, have a little things that you've worked really hard for, well, why should I just fucking hand it over to somebody else who doesn't want to work as hard for something? I'm not talking about the people that need help, the infirmed, the disabled, the mentally ill.
Who truly need
assistance. Yeah, dude. There's a ton of those people, but I guarantee you 90% of the fucktards that are in the camps right now, they're criminals, they're drug addicts, they're not in need to the degree of the people that have the need. It's funny, it's not funny. Just right by our office, there's a new camp sprung up. It used to be by the freeway, and I think that they've shushed them over. I can't believe that they just allow it to get to the point that they've allowed it to get to. But again, that's the whole west side. The Inslee, Brown, and fucking Newsom. Yeah. They're all just insane in my opinion. But eventually, it's not. I don't see it as homelessness. I see it as a lifestyle choice. The majority of the ones that I see don't want to, society's bad, it's evil, it's racist, it's fucking all the negative things. Yeah. Sure, they don't want to have any part to do with it, but yet they sure got a fucking smartphone from somebody, and they're panhandling from somebody that's giving them those things that got it from those means. You have to eat, you have to fucking be able to take care of the certain basic amenities of life, but they fucking just pile up. Well, eventually they're going to compete within of themselves for resources. Right. So what's going to happen? I mean, look at the smash and grab shit going on in San Francisco right now. What fucking kind of lunatic says, oh, it's not a crime if it's under $1,000? Well, what the fuck you think's going to happen? Right. It's an inevitable cesspool. You let people poop and fucking do needles on the street without recourse of going to jail. Yep.
And or society has essentially stopped shaming that sort of behavior.
Well, it's even beyond not shaming them anymore. It's like, you got to accept it or you're going to get fucking canceled because you're a bad guy, because oh my God, you can't fucking think that way. And then you really start, I mean, look, I wasn't in love with Trump, but the economy was good. To me, he wasn't a career politician. I would have had a monkey in a suit besides Hillary. So, and it's funny because I've had this conversation with a few people. A lot of people just voted for Biden because they hated Trump for whatever reason.
Yeah, it was anything except the Orange Man, because Orange Man is bad.
And I felt that same way about Hillary. I would have voted for anybody besides Hillary.
Right.
But there was something about, again, like revered Trump was by everybody in the industry all over the world. Everybody loved him until he became a fucking politician.
Right.
Because he didn't go along with the status quo that everybody else wanted to go to. And I don't want to be on a Trump tangent necessarily.
But yeah, I mean, he would say he kind of offered an opportunity for a change, and whether or not he followed through on that kind of opportunity and promises, at least there was a chance against the establishment. And now we've kind of doubled down on
the anti that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, again, if somebody would just took his fucking tweets away from, I don't think he would have necessarily have upset as many people as he did. But it's funny because I have my family that I went to go visit down in Arizona, hardcore liberal. Mm-hmm. They would start to say certain stuff and I just change the subject because I'm not going to change their mind, or they're not going to allow me enough time to change their mind.
Right.
And they're not going to change my mind. But the atypical things about Trump being a fucking racist. How many times did the guy denounce fucking white supremacy? The Charlottesville thing, it's all the sound bites from the media. They take these little pieces. The one I like the best is the grab him by the pussy. People say that he's a misogynist because he can just walk up to anybody, any female, and grab him by the pussy. Well, that's not what was said. What was said was there are women in this world that will let you walk up and grab them by the pussy, and there sure as shit is, especially if you're a billionaire guy and you're having this conversation. It doesn't
look at Harvey Weinstein.
That to me, that's a whole other level of insanity, because you had that entire fucking group of people, Oprah and fucking Weatherspoon, all the Hollywood in general. How you watch those cuts of the sound bites of thanking the Weinstein brothers and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them, and fucking he's jerking off into a plant to fucking get these girls to to be part of that whole thing, and it was just glossed over until you had, who was it, Rose McGowan, I think, she was like one of the first ones that kind of spoke out about it. And then you got Alyssa Milano, who is like piling on against her. Not that I know any of these people, but I'm just, those are the things. And you just see these careers just getting squashed left and right, or knocked over or whatever, which again, I think at this point, most of those people who believe what the truth is don't want to be part of that anymore. But it's funny that the whole loudness of, especially with the goddamn burning cities to the ground. I mean, looting, rioting, that is not, my favorite thing is fucking seeing. I watch all of it just because I want to have perspective. I'm not a Fox pusher. I do happen to like Tucker Carlson. I can't fucking stand Don Lemon. But all of those, they're just all still puppets of other people that are out there.
Yeah, someone else is putting words in their mouth.
There's no question. They're reading the script.
Yeah.
Okay, it's written to a certain extent. But the one guy is the fucking fires. It's mostly peaceful protests.
Bring that up. That's my favorite thing, is like mostly peaceful. And so like my buddies and I, we joke around that, well, a Molotov cocktail is mostly peaceful until you light it on fire.
Yeah, and it hits you in your face or whatever. Yeah. I mean, like the
downtown Portland riots, it's like they're mostly peaceful, except if you're within that 4-block radius.
Well, what about,
and they're trying to burn all the federal buildings down.
Yeah, or Chaz or whatever that was up in Seattle.
Yeah, well, the dude that was handing out ARs out of the back of his Tesla, which, if I were to do that, that is a...
you're going to prison.
Right. So machine shop, I have the ability, I don't have the licenses, but I have the ability to manufacture AR-15s and other sort of pistols to my heart's content. I don't do that because, again, I don't have the licenses. Mm-hmm. If I were to do that and also start throwing them out of the back of my car to my buddies, the feds would be on my ass so incredibly quick that, but yet, because this is now part of a political movement,
right.
Nothing happens to this gentleman. And he also happens to be a person of color, which adds in a whole nother issue of like, great. So the rules apply to certain people.
It has never been more apparent how upside down shit has been than the last couple of years. Like it just got magnified. And what just trips me out are the people that just go along with it. Just that's not go along with it, that they really believe it.
Like almost willingly ignorant of what's going on.
Yeah, it's the ostrich mentality. Just want to bury your head, don't want to, look, everybody wants to have love, health, wealth, to live a nice life, to just kind of, I think most people want to be just left alone and just be. Yeah. Just be with your family, be with your friends.
Let me get some work done. Let me hang out with my family. Let me hang out with my friends. Let me not be sick all the time. Let me have food in my belly and food on the table. I want to keep my daughter fed, keep her healthy. Doesn't seem unreasonable to ask.
It doesn't. But then this whole, whatever. I was like the Rittenhouse, for example. I didn't follow it super to the T like a lot of people did, supposedly. But it just blows my mind when people, clearly, you did not watch any of the trial to make this tweet or this statement of, even fucking Biden, before anything even happened, he said that, white supremacy, blah, 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 whatever it was that he said. I don't have the quote, but to just make those comments about some kid who is 17, regardless whether or not he should have had his gun with him or not, he was fucking being pinned down by a registered pedophile claiming he's going to kill him, another guy that pulled a gun on him, another guy that fucking tried to smash his skull with a skateboard. Yeah. What the fuck is he supposed to do?
How much more do you need for self-defense?
I was just super thankful that the jury, because that was a monumental deal.
Oh, yeah.
It was huge. That would have been to the point of like, how do you protect yourself? How do you...
Right. Had that case been decided elsewhere or elsewise, self-defense at that point would have been so incredibly hard to, once that precedent had been set, trying to fight that would have been nearly impossible. But on the flip side now is, certain aspects of the media now say, great, so white supremacy has the right to just murder people left and right. And now that's the story that they're starting to spin out of it. And I do have friends that sit there and say, okay, Rittenhouse should have gotten something. It's like, we can argue about the possession side of things, and you can sit there and argue that, yes, maybe he should have been charged with something, but everyone else that was associated with that,
right. Where's the charges?
Also had no charges.
I'm pushing a dumpster full of fire at a gas station.
Right.
Where's the criminality in that? Or the burning of the buildings, or the all the windows being smashed,
justice. If we're truly going to mete it out equally, that's fine. Let's figure out, and prosecution. There's a bunch of things you can argue about that case that they failed to do, but at the same time, the pedophile that has a Glock that got his bicep blown off, or I know one of the dudes, I don't know if that was the pedophile dude.
No, the other guy that got killed was, but yes.
But didn't have a concealed carry license, right. Et cetera, also was not charged with anything.
Well, and again, they have the drone footage from the FBI that's 4K that got lost or whatever.
Got downsampled down to like 480p.
But just think about all the other people that are out there. Here's one thing to me that absolutely, and again, I hate the word conspiracy or conspiratorial, but all that really means is that a couple people come up with an idea. And at this point in time, it's hard to argue that that's a fact. But when a fucking pallet of bricks just magically appear 10 spots all around a town,
real weird.
Why? What? How does that happen? I've never seen anybody.
There's no Home Depot drop-off points.
I've never seen anybody articulate a reason legitimately of why those things are there. Right. So to me, it's just ammunition for chaos. To create this environment of it's panic, fear, whatever.
There's all those different stages. And to the point you're trying to make is like the media does a really good job of spinning things. The Maxine Waters?
Yeah. Hold on. No, you're talking about the lady who Epstein's, initially. No, that's Ghislaine.
Ghislaine. Okay. Yes, yeah. Sorry.
Yes.
So Ghislaine, that trial's going on right now.
Right. Nobody's talking about it.
Right. We're focused on other things.
It's one of the most epic.
Omicron is now the big.
It's an analogy for moronic, right?
Yeah. And what was it? Bill Gates had like a video game or something that came out with the same name.
I did just see that not that long ago.
But yeah, to that point, it's like we're going to focus on this new variant that admittedly we really don't know much about. And it came out of South Africa, but suddenly is now in the States. It's really strange that within like a week or two.
What's funny about, not funny, again, I keep using that term, ironic, though, is that, so Australia's on fucking hardcore lockdown, okay? You can't get in unless you got the fucking vaccine passport.
Right.
So,
and even then it's difficult. Yeah.
But if Omicron is there now,
yeah, how to get in?
Somebody either let it in or it's a convenience. Again, whatever. I could go deep down a lot of different rabbit holes, and I like to, in curiosity's sake at time, but I don't want to paint a picture of like, I think that that's 100%. I think that there's a mixed bag of stuff. I think that there are fucking evil people in this world that want shit to go a certain way.
Right.
And they're going to help steer things that direction. Whatever name you want to put on it, Soros, Gates. I mean, Epstein certainly did not fucking kill himself. I think that's the most ridiculous. The cameras go out. I mean, dude, you can't. These are like movie scripts, dude.
Yeah.
It's a literal movie script that is the most obscene, ridiculous thing.
At one point, it's like Tom Cruise come down the vent and strangle him and, get retracted back up.
But it's because it's on the box that's inside of every house in America is telling people that this is what it is.
Right.
And
or don't pay attention to this. Pay attention to the image that's in front of you right now.
The left hand, right hand stuff. It's the art of deception, and again, I don't know to what end it is. Is it the devil? Is it at that level? Is that a real thing? Is it just evil men that want to control shit? Are we in the fucking Matrix? I mean, I'm not, nor have I ever claimed to know the answer. I just know that what is being preached from any fucking source is not the whole truth.
Right.
There's no way that those things can take place the way that we're told to take place. And then when you have conversations with people that are not free thinkers, or they're even, NPCs in a sense, I don't know. Again, the red pill, and I'm not going to go on that subject right now, but I think that we all have different moments in our lives that awaken us to a certain extent of it's the Wizard of Oz,
right.
The man behind the curtain. Somebody's pulling some fucking wool over your eyes. Somebody's trying to get something. Is it really all just about money? I don't think so, because inevitably there's more money. These guys have more money than you could ever spend. So it ultimately has to become power.
Yeah, power and control.
Control, yes. And it's the stretch of manipulation to the nth degree, to even the ones, because all of the ones that are really in control, we don't know about.
Right.
We don't know.
Those aren't the public figureheads.
Correct. There's people that have so much influence. Whatever, you Majestic 12, fucking Build-A-Bear, whatever, all these different titles. I don't think there is even a title for the ones that are really behind all of that stuff. And I think it's even beyond the royalty stuff. We can't even conceive it because we don't know it. You know what I mean? All we can base this stuff on is our observations, with the little bit of information that we've been told. I know that I've the bloodlines of different families that go back, I mean, I remember having this conversation with Hari about fucking 15 years ago. Where's the first dude that says, all right, I'm in control.
Right.
I'm the guy. You're going to do what I'm going to say. I'm the guy.
Yes.
What gave him that? Does he have a laser gun? Does he have magical powers? Who's the first fucking dude in existence that you can go back to the fucking pharaohs or the fucking, losing, can't think. But go back to as far back as that you can go to say, all right, I'm the boss, I'm in control, and this is why. Mm-hmm. And then everybody bows to that guy. There's got to be something that individual or entity or whatever you want to call it has it over everybody else to where they're just going to,
or technology or what have you. The guy who sat there and went down to the sands of the beach, got it all together and threw it in the fire and started to extract some iron out of those, and then figured out, hey, cool, the slag that comes out of here, if I cook it in my forge and beat it with a hammer, I can make a blade that's sharper than the brass or copper, devices of that time. And I can take that and either make a blade, or I can, make a hoe and, increase my crop yield. And now once I have that power and I have that technology, now I can sit there and keep it for myself and dole it out and establish myself.
I love Graham Hancock. I don't know if you're familiar with him. So I don't remember what number it is. 730 something. Rogan had Graham Hancock. I followed Graham Hancock before Rogan even had podcasts, but Graham Hancock, he wrote like Fingerprints of the Gods. There's a couple other books. His hypothesis is that the history that we've been taught is not the true history.
Right.
And that he did a podcast on Rogan with this other dude named Randall Carlson, who is a geologist. And I won't bother going into all the details, but just check that one out. It's very interesting. But it really lays out scientifically and with a lot of physical evidence, whether it was what they're saying is the exact thing that happened or not. But at some point in time, the ocean levels rose. Okay. The North American ice sheet, the last, ice age that took place before the Younger Dryas time period. That's what they're talking about. The roughly 12,000 years ago, that there was an event that took place that created a deluge of water, more than likely what the story of Noah is talking about in the Bible. Same thing, the Epic of Gilgamesh. There's world flood myths all over the world. So that it changed the elevation of the water, and I don't remember what the square miles of water of landmass that have been erased since this particular event. But prior to this, whether you want to say it's the Atlanteans or Mu or any other group of people that was supposedly written in these things, you can fucking go off the coast of Greece, you can go off the coast of fucking Japan, you can go off the coast of damn near any continent and see things that are clearly man-made. Okay. Right. So what technology did that? Could we have gotten to a level of technology that we're at now or greater if you had some sort of mix between technology and spirituality, or, whatever, that we have been in a different spot? So according to the mainstream shit, around 6,000 years ago, everything, we went from hunter-gatherers to farming and agriculture and stuff like that. Well, if that's the case, who did that? Like you said, who's the guy who's looking at let's chisel away that rock and melt it, and that's just got to be taught. And all of the Native American stories, at least in North America, and even the Mayans, the Aztecs, all of them, they all have very plainly written the fucking guys came out of the sky and told us
something came from the heavens.
They showed us how to do this. They showed us how to do animal husbandry. They showed us how to fucking mine shit. They showed us how to grow food for agriculture. They all claim that they were taught at some way or another. So is it just as simple as these big cycles that roll around, that changes everything? But the people that are in control of the stuff right now, what's the angle? I follow a guy, it's Adapt 2030, and his theory is that the sun controls everything in our solar system. Okay, it controls all of
all the cycles of everything.
Everything.
Yep.
So yes, people are fucked up, dumping chemicals in the ocean, terrible, poisoning animals. We are not a prime example of homeostasis with our environment.
Unfortunately, we're a very parasitic species.
100%. Just like Matrix says,
Yeah.
we're a fucking scar on the earth. Fine.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But the whole point of having these bigger cycles that are coming around, their solar activity, his idea is that we're entering a grand solar minimum right now. And the last time that we did that was the Marauder minimum, I think. His thing, David Dubois, he's got a great podcast on YouTube, and he's talking, talking about this 400-year cycle, that if you go back throughout history, there's different civilizations that come and go at this time period, and that it revolves around food production. Okay, so yes, man fucks shit up, but one volcanic eruption produces more CO2. Well, start off, the world needs CO2.
Right.
If you don't have CO2, you don't have plants, you don't have fucking, you need that.
So a lot of building blocks are established.
You do the ice core samples in Iceland or Antarctica or whatever. There's shit that is 5 degrees warmer. 11,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago, whatever that time period are, there was no automation, there was no machines, so clearly there's other cycles that people aren't taking into consideration. I mean, according to fucking Al Gore 5 years ago, there's no more fucking polar bears.
Right.
I mean, that shit's already supposed to be gone. That just shows you.
Or the world was going to end because of global warming, and yet here we are.
Well, they had to change it to climate change because global warming didn't stick.
Right.
But this guy, this particular guy, and there's a couple other guys that are out there, Diebold, this guy talks about a micronova that every 12,000 years, stars go through a solar micronova, and then it fries anything that's in existence, and it's a reset button. But this particular guy I'm referring to right now, he's talking about these 400-year cycles that's about food production. And I don't know if you know about, Iowa, Nebraska, they had a couple, what do they call it, land hurricanes,
right,
where just wiped out 11 million fucking acres of crops.
Yep.
I mean, and then so China is experiencing the greatest floods that they've had in the last several hundred years. All their dams are, I'm not necessarily saying today, I don't know the latest, but the Yangtze River is flooding all their shit. So what are they doing? They're building cities in Africa because the Sahara Desert is actually starting to gain water. There was a dam built in Ethiopia just a couple years ago. Who would build a dam in Ethiopia? How would you know to build a dam in Ethiopia?
Right.
Why would you do that? Well, it's filling, because the shift of, and again, I'm not a fucking scientist. I don't know all of the
play one on TV.
The specifics, but the sun's magnetic field, the heliosphere of the sun, it quiets. So that allows more galactic radiation that comes in. Our magnetic sphere on the planet Earth is at the lowest that it's ever been since recorded history.
Right.
So more things are coming in. Without the magnetosphere being in place, then the jet streams aren't held in line like they have been for generations. They start making these weird fucking dips. I mean, when was the first time you heard about the polar vortex? That was like 2 years ago. I never heard that term before ever in my life, but it's freezing in Texas.
I was going to say, if anything, it's evidenced by the rapid and decaying weather changes that we're seeing as of late, where it's freezing here in December, which is something we don't normally, I should say start of December, which is something we've not really ever experienced until like end of December, January, sometimes February. So we are definitely seeing, really strange shifts.
The 118 degrees that it was fucking last summer.
Yeah, on the flip side,
the
huge.
So the whole idea is that his hypothesis is that the sun is in this downplay time, so that it's changing all of the other planets' atmospheres and conditions, and that his speculation is that in October of 2024 is the apex, and part of that has to do with Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, and Jupiter all being on one side of Earth and the sun being on the other side, creating these electromagnetic vortices. So if you've seen a lot of the wall art at different locations, they have these things that look like men, where it's there's like what appears to be a head, a body, an arm, and they put dots and
humanoid of some.
That's what it looks like. But they're doing tests now in laboratories with different voltage of electromagnetic energy, and it's creating these plasma lines. And these plasma lines are taking these shapes. And so his hypothesis is that they were drawing what they were seeing in the sky because it was such an anomaly and it was changing everything. And that's when people were going into the caves to try to fucking survive or whatever.
Right.
So that's one thing that appears to be happening right now. So you have all these people that are in control, in power, trying to fucking don't pay attention to, look over here, do this.
Yeah, look at the right hand, don't look at the left hand.
Make it a political thing, make it an anything. But because think about the impact of not being able to grow enough food for the people.
Right.
Eventually.
Even recently, when new strains of COVID have come out, there's been not just toilet paper, but food supply as well. And the fact that people start freaking out because everyone in our society is used to going down to Safeway, going down to Fred Meyer's, and there's always copious amounts of food on the shelves. And now suddenly there's a huge run, truckers stop trucking because of they disagree with mandates and things like that. People are starting to realize how fragile our society has actually become.
You're 3 days away from complete chaos.
Right.
The good stuff doesn't show up.
Yeah, called The Division. Set place in New York, essentially after supply lines broke down and a virus came out. Interestingly enough, and you're tasked with essentially trying to rebuild, New York City, at least in the first one, and it's just really interesting how many parallels you can draw between that and what's going on today.
Well, if you get, dude, again, this is my world. I could talk for fucking hours beyond hours, and I won't go on too much. But part of the ideology of the spiritual side of things, that the karmic justice is universal. It's bigger than anything. It's whatever transcends whatever. You talk about we're in third dimension. There's fourth dimension, fifth dimension, whatever. To nth degree, who knows?
Right.
We have no idea. But that whether you want to call it God or the universe or Q or fucking from Star Trek, I don't remember that guy or not. But you get to that certain level to where you kind of like have to tell people what you're doing. Right. It's almost like you have to admit it, but because it's in a movie or TV or music or a video game, it's just happenstance. It's like silly. It's, whatever. It's not real. Right. But yet these things are happening. And the correlations that you start connecting with what has been portrayed in some form of media and is actually happening right now, the shortages. Dude, it's fucking 100% planned. There's no question that all of these ships that are out off the coast of California or Washington or wherever else it is, there's not enough people to fucking work to get it off the boats, fucking blah, blah. Fine, there's a little minuscule of some truth to that. Quit giving them fucking free money. Stop giving free money so that people won't go back to work, because there are a lot of hardworking guys that don't want the free money. They just want to work. But the majority of people will do so out of necessity. Get that shit off the fucking ships. Get it back in the stores. But it's I don't like to be like dark and doomsday guy, but I think that a lot of this is kind of just, it's the pretext. The stuff that's going to come next is, it's not going to be the microchips that you can't get. It's not going to be your fucking brake pads that you can't get. It's not going to be get your diesel fucking whatever the thing is that moves the wheels on the trucks to get the production out there. It's not the people that's going to be there. The fucking food. It's the food and the water. When I've told this story a couple times recently, because whatever, I like to say this when I drink. When I was in third grade, Mr. Brower, favorite teacher in my life. Love that dude. He was a guy, I brought him a dead squirrel. And he was a taxidermist, and he had animals. So I brought him a dead squirrel one day, found it on walking to school, put it in a cereal box, brought it to him. The next week he had it on the shelf. Love that guy. I think right at the end of third grade, he said, "Chris," He said, when you're my age, and he was a gray beard, bald guy. He was probably 5 years older than I am right now. He just looked older. And I was
going to say, you got 9. A lot of hair to lose.
I'll never be bald. It's fine. I'm going to be gray as fuck, but I'll never be bald. But I remember distinctly, he said, Chris, when you're my age, the world and the country is not going to, he said, the world is not going to be run by countries. It's going to be run by corporations. Yep. And he was talking about the technocracy that we're right now with fucking Twitter and Google and Facebook, Amazon, all these guys that have all of this control of stuff. But just the poignancy of that message that stuck in my head at that particular time, it's really right there. So all the knowledge and information that I've gleaned over the last couple of decades of my life isn't new. It's just more accessible. Somebody's taken the time to kind of put it, more in a pile that's more easily discernible than rolling through a mountain of books, that's been around for a long time, because these cycles come and go. Right. But the food is the thing. The food and the water. He talked about the water wars. Did you know that water just became a commodity for the first time this last March?
Oh, really?
Yes. And do you know who the largest farmland owner in the United States is right now?
I'm going to assume it's...
Not Soros.
No, what's the one that starts with
No, it's Bill Gates.
Oh, as far as landowner. Oh,
so
okay.
He's the largest farmland owner right now. There's a couple other big players, one of which is part of the Chinese Communist Party, which why they're allowed to buy anything in the United States is, again, beyond me.
It's a good question.
But that they're buying all this fucking land, and they're buying it on top of the aquifers.
Right.
So I moved to Battleground last year, like I said. One of the things that I wanted to have when I got out to my land is I wanted a well and I wanted a wood burning stove. Mm-hmm. Just 2 things I wanted to make me feel better about self-preservation.
Seems pretty reasonable. Yeah.
I couldn't get a well. They have a moratorium in well digging right now.
Really?
Yes. And I'm not going to go so far as saying that is the state of Washington, but I am 100% going to say that it is the county of Clark, that they will not allow you to dig a well. You cannot get a permit to dig a well right now. And after learning about Bill Gates being the largest farmland owner in the United States now, and the fact that water is a commodity, so Nestle wants to fucking drain the Great Lakes and bottle it and fucking sell it to China. Mm-hmm. They can do that now. So these players are going to be able to buy this land, and they're going to dig a well that's deeper than your municipality's well. And they're going to fucking pull that water up. They're going to siphon it out from underneath them. And you're going to find in the next, I'm going to go out and say in the next couple of years, that this is going to be a big deal. You've got the water that's being bought up. You've got the land, the farm. You know that there is a national shortage in fertilizer right now. All of this stuff it's the perfect storm. It's totally being poised. And again, I'm not going to say to what end, China's going to come in and take over, or I don't know what the end game is, but all of this seems very orchestrated.
Yeah, strings being pulled at some level.
Something is going along to maintain these levels of power, to fit in. Are you familiar with Agenda 21? Did you ever stumble across that?
No.
Do we need to take a bathroom break, or does anybody stop?
I wouldn't mind.
About 5 more minutes.
All right. We'll just, okay. Here's the thing. I'll stop now. I think that this is super cool. I could ramble on for hours, beyond hours. But on a side note, I'll hook you up with a couple of things, just things to be in.
Yeah.
Agenda 21 it didn't make it. And I'm not going to go and say it was because of Trump, but Trump was a disruption to a lot of plans, I think, which is why I think he was so vitrified everywhere. And again, Trump's not my fucking savior. No, whatever. I'm not saying any of that. It's a happenstance. I look at all the things objectively and try to decipher my own little opinions of things. But Agenda 21 was a legitimate plan from the UN to get people out of rural areas. It coincides with the Georgia Guidestones. Have you ever come across the Georgia Guidestones? Okay, so it comes across that, have humanity at a 500 million or less, whatever.
Right.
It's easier now today in this world to kill a billion people than it is to control a billion people. But regardless, the Agenda 21 was the UN's plan to try to mitigate the lack of resources that would, in their eyes, be available to such a large amount of people that are living on this planet. And now it's Agenda 30 because they didn't make the 21 deadline didn't happen. It didn't happen. And this coincides along with different papers that are put out by like the Rockefeller Foundation, Operation Lockstep, the Project for a New American Century, back for the 9/11 stuff. All of these some people are making these plans to orchestrate things in a certain way. I'm beginning to believe, and again, just my opinion, that these things are based around stuff they can't control, like a solar cycle. Okay, there's something so big, so epic, they can't do anything. So
global.
You can't. They can't. You can't. What are you going to fight? You can't do anything about that. You're at the mercy of the galaxy or the universe or whatever is out there. And so they're trying to hedge their bets, get every little bit of form of control that they can get, so that when the shit fucking switches or cycles that next over, that they can maintain some sort of semblance of control or whatever it is. And I think that the opportunity of the COVID and getting everybody to stay in their homes, I honestly believe that a lot of the I don't want to say plan, but a lot of the opportunity of what took place was to prevent this. Mm-hmm. I can't hang out with you or go to a bar or sit around and talk about all this shit because they don't want people fucking talking about it.
I was going to say, if I'm afraid and at home,
right,
and everything is being monitored essentially, internet communication, what have you.
Obviously, we're whatever you're doing with this, I don't know, but it's just recording. But we've all gotten to the point now to where it is absolutely 100% undeniable that your fucking phone is listening to you every second of every day. Mm-hmm. You don't need to say Siri. You don't need to say Alexa. You don't need to say, there's a fucking 1,000 words that they say. And the fact that they can put the entire country's system on a chip the size of your thumb, once upon a time, they didn't have the
technology, literally,
the space to record or do everything. They now do. They don't monitor everything. Well, AI is now monitoring. That's a whole other conversation. Machine learning. But all right. Anyway, I think it's probably a good time to fucking stop, dude, because I could fucking just keep on going forever and ever and
we'll have to do a part 2 on this. And
it's 5, maybe 6, 8. Anyway.